Hello everyone, welcome into our latest live video. It's Saturday, the 14th of June, 2025. I'm CareyHolzman, and today I would like to challenge you to a game of, is it a commercial or is it a review? Go on social media, look at Facebook, look at TikTok, look at Instagram, look at YouTube, look at any social media site, and you will be flooded with ads. Why? Because people use ad blockers. Because the society we live in thought they could outsmart corporate America and use the ad blockers. And corporate America said, don't use the ad blockers or we'll ban you. And they tried that and it didn't work. So corporate America said, well, we're just going to stop paying the content creators. Let them figure out how to pay for their content themselves, because the advertisers said, we're not paying you anyway because people are blocking our ads. Why would we pay for that? So because society has decided, and not everybody, but enough of society has decided that they're going to take the content without the proper exchange of watching the ads, then the advertising company said, well, we're not going to pay this kind of money anymore. So YouTube told the content creators, we're not going to pay you the kind of money anymore. My content is worth 90% less than it was 3 years ago. So if I made $100 on a video, it now makes $10. Why? Because advertisers have said, we're going to do less of this and we're going to pay less for it because you're allowing ad blockers. So YouTube, in an attempt to try and save, their income stream, started out banning people that were using ad blockers or creating annoyances where videos wouldn't start right, or there'd be these long delays, etc., for people that were still using ad blockers. And there are people that say, well, I wouldn't use YouTube if I had to use an ad, if I had to see the ads. Well, good. YouTube's fine with that. The cost of the servers, the cost of the bandwidth, the cost of all the storage of all the videos, the copyright enforcement they're required to do by law, as well as banning inappropriate content of people getting beheaded and all kinds of stuff that people put up constantly, all gets filtered out before you're traumatized by having to watch it. So all of that costs these corporations millions of dollars a year, if not hundreds of millions. It's a lot of money. And how do you keep that afloat? So they said, well, we don't have the income to share with the content creators, so you guys are mostly on your own. Find your own income streams. And by the way, you can turn your channel into a shopping channel, and YouTube will help you. TikTok will help you. They'll help you tie with brands to sell makeup and clothes and fashion accessories and anything in any category. So long as YouTube gets a cut of the sale, they'll help you. So if you want to be an influencer, there's opportunity there to be a slick salesman on what is the new QVC on the internet. Now, I mention all this because I was very surprised when UGREEN reached out to us and asked if we would review their latest NAS. Now, I've known about this NAS for over a year because for some reason I don't understand, UGREEN, which was already a pretty successful corporation, decided to start this as a Kickstarter campaign as if they didn't exist, right? A lot of people that use Kickstarter, or there's a few others, to start a business, to say we want to make a product and we need the financing to do it. UGREEN already had the financing, but they didn't want to use their own money. So they said, let's just go to Kickstarter. Let's see if we can get a bunch of people backing this project. And I'm not sure why, other than greed. It doesn't make any sense to me. But that's what they did, and they're not breaking any law. They're not doing anything wrong. It's just really weird. So it's like, okay, no, I've not seen anybody else do this. I've not seen any other, like Asus or ASRock or Synology. I haven't seen any other pre-existing company go to Kickstarter for funding. That's usually not a problem when you already exist. But when you're trying to exist, when you're trying to create a new company, how do you get the money for that? And Kickstarter is a great way for people who don't have the means, and also to gauge public interest in what you're making. So that's how we got Jet KVM, etc. Now, like GeoINet came out with their IP KVM, they didn't Kickstarter it. They developed it themselves, paid for the development themselves, because they're already a company that has money and they pay for their own research and development. And, all right, anyway. So that whole thing was weird. Again, nothing wrong with it. It's just weird. Then you think, well, I wonder how this is going to turn out. Will these Kickstarters the people who funded the Kickstarter campaign actually get a product, and they did. All right. And you think, well, how good is the software on this brand new thing? You know, it's taken Synology years to refine their software. Terra-Master still, after 5 or 6 years, is still polishing and improving their software just to keep up. Like, they're not leading the way. They might one day, but not yet. So when UGREEN reached out to us 5 times, would you review this? Yeah, we'd be happy to review it. Send one over. They said, okay, but we need to see the video before you release it to your audience. What? Yeah, we'll send you a unit, but we need to see the video, and you will need to make any requested changes and send it back to us until we're okay with it. We'll go back and forth however many times is necessary, maybe 0, right? But they at least have to see it first before you're allowed to see it. UGREEN wants to control this. Why? We'll pay you. You're going to pay me. Let me go back and look at some of these other UGREEN reviews on YouTube. Well, sure enough, many content creators, if you listen carefully, say this was sent to me by UGREEN in exchange for, how did they phrase it? They have some of the content creators left some critical information out, or maybe they got a different deal, but I don't think they got a different deal. I'm allowed to say what I want, kind of a thing. But yes, UGREEN's not providing you a script. You can say what you want, but UGREEN may not let you say certain things. Or maybe you don't want to say those certain things because you know UGREEN's going to watch the video. So one way or another, you're being compelled. You're being controlled. They're telling you, and if you don't do it the way they want, you're not getting paid. One reviewer got one of these units, and then UGREEN sent them 4 4-terabyte drives from Western Digital. And a notice came up and said, these drives are not on the compatibility list and you could lose data. And the reviewer, it's really a commercial, by the way. It's a paid commercial. It's a sponsored commercial. It's not a review, but they're calling it a review. They're saying they're allowed to speak their mind, but they're not. If they were, then UGREEN wouldn't be requiring them to send the video to UGREEN for approval before airing it. So UGREEN would not let us do this live. Absolutely would not. We went back and forth about it. They will not. So now I'm really curious what they're trying to hide. But anyway, so this content, one of the reviews said, oh, you know, they sent us the drives, they sent us the unit, and I'm allowed to speak my mind. And they didn't mention having to send the video to them for approval or anything. They left that out. And then they got a notice on the screen that the drives UGREEN sent were not on the compatibility list. It popped up. And the content creator said, oh, that's just telling you that you're going to erase the data on the drives. No, that's not what it said. You can read it right on the screen. It's very clear the drives you're using are not on UGREEN's compatibility list. And if you choose to use them anyway, you could lose your data. These are the drives UGREEN sent with the unit. Why didn't the content creator point this out? Do you think UGREEN doesn't want them to say it, or did they genuinely not pay attention? And how good of a reviewer are they? How thorough of a review did they do? I don't want any restrictions when I do a review. I want to be honest. And I want to have no dog in the race, no punishment and no reward. Okay, in the sense that if you decide to buy one, I don't make any money from it. And even if I did make money from an Amazon link, Amazon's payment is maybe 75 cents on every $100. It's like maybe $1. So if this device is a $600 device, I might make $6 on it. Yeah, that's worth throwing away my integrity for, right? $6. So anyway, there's no real motivation there for me to try and twist your arm and convince you to buy something, whatever it is. And there's no punishment. If I really don't like something, I can be honest about it. But I'm not just going to go after a company emotionally because I feel like it. Like, there's got to be a justifiable reason. And if the companies would listen and take the advice offered, or at least some of it, the idea is I'm trying to guide them to what the actual people buying their products want. I'm an actual person who buys a product, and I'm telling you what I want. That has a lot of value based on focus, if you were to do focus groups or send out surveys, where people may be disingenuous in their responses because to them it's like a fun game to mess with you. I'm not out here to mess with anybody, not you, the viewer, not the manufacturer. My goal is you guys get honest information and the manufacturer gets honest feedback. If the manufacturer is trying to control that feedback so that you guys can't see it, then I'm very curious what they're trying to hide. So I don't know if this is good or not, because if it's good, UGREEN should have the confidence to send out review units and say, do your best. Give it a review. We just ask that you're honest. That's the way most reviews work. But just like GeekComp asked us during the holidays if we would review 5 mini PCs and they'd pay for that video, we said yes. And they said, well, you just got to make sure that GeekComp is in the #1 position. Okay? I said, no. They said, well, what do you mean no? We're paying for the video. I said, I will do a top 5 mini PCs of 2024, but I can't guarantee GeekComp will be in the #1 position. So if you want, I can do a top 5 GeekComp mini PCs of 2024. Would you like that? And they said, oh no, we're not doing that. And they said, we appreciate your integrity, meaning they knew what they were asking me to do was questionable. And then of course, I never heard from them again after that. So this is how we get YouTube content creators or content creators in general paid. They start making commercials. So your ad blocker is allowing you to watch much more lengthy commercials for products disguised as product reviews, and it's getting out of hand. I'd say when I scroll through Facebook Reels, I'd say 3 out of 5 videos are advertisements. 3 out of 5. And some clearly say sponsored, and some make it out like, hey guys, want to see this really cool trick? And it's just an advertisement, and it's not labeled as one. So here's the game. Whenever you're watching a video on any social media platform, including this one, ask yourself, is this a commercial or is this a review? In particular, pull up every review done on the UGREEN and try and guess, unless the content creator does specify the rules. Full disclosure. I have heard content creators say full disclosure and they give some disclosure. Like, oh, UGREEN sent this to me for free, full disclosure. That's not a full disclosure, that's partial disclosure. What's the rest of the conditions? They don't say it. Were the conditions different for them? Maybe. Probably not. So when you leave an Amazon review, or you leave a Yelp review or a Google review, nobody can stop you from saying what's on your mind for any reason you have. In much the same way, if I make a YouTube review on a product that I have paid for, there's nothing the company can do about it. It is my right to vocalize my opinion and showcase this product without any dog in the race. I have nothing to gain. I have nothing to lose. How many YouTube channels exist like this? How many YouTube channels exist that can do honest reviews and generate enough revenue to keep doing it nearly every day? How are they getting paid? Where's all this stuff coming from? Well, ours is coming from our community. Well, we do make a little bit of money from YouTube. It would cover maybe 3 videos a month. That's how much we make from YouTube. We used to make enough money in a month to cover 3 months worth of videos or more. That's all changed now. And so for YouTube content creators to not fade away and have to find another career, they're scrambling to figure out, how can I make content and how do I pay my bills? Did you ever stop, and I don't know if you have, and wonder, how is this content creator making any money? If they're making this much content, they must not have a job, but they must live somewhere where bills have to get paid. If it's a content creator that makes videos once a month or once a week, maybe it's a hobby. So how are they financing it? Now, for me, I could finance this channel through my business as an extension of my business, and that's how I started it. That's a viable means. But it also means while I'm working my business and doing YouTube, I don't have much time for either one, you know, at full time. I got to do a little bit of this, got to do a little bit of that. I ping pong back and forth. So this is the behind the scenes full disclosure you need to be aware of. And I challenge you to look up reviews of this UGREEN and guess which content creators are being fully honest about, hey, they sent us the unit and I have to send them the video before I show it to you, just so you know. I don't have a problem with that. That's honesty. There's nothing wrong with it in my book. But when they don't disclose those conditions upon which their review is based, they're lying to you because it's not a review anymore. That's a commercial. In fact, by that full disclosure, by saying I'm reviewing this, it's still a commercial. A review can only be a review if you, as the content creator, have no reward and no punishment other than your audience likes it or dislikes your content. That's all it's on here. So there's no reason for me to make this out to be more than it is. There's also no reason for me to put it down simply because I don't like the way UGREEN is promoting it. But I'm not that guy. I'm not going to automatically not like this. I'm going to give this as fair of a shake as anybody. But now I'm really, really curious. What are they trying to hide? Why are they trying to control their reviews? If you truly believe in your product, you send it to the reviewer and you appreciate any critical feedback. It's there to help make a better product. If you want to make a commercial, let me tell you something. I come from regular terrestrial radio and television. I come from that world. Making a commercial on radio or television costs tens of thousands of dollars, and you have to pay every time it re-airs to an audience that may have no interest in what you're promoting. On YouTube or other social media platforms, you attract a very targeted audience, right? So we've attracted a very technical audience worldwide. So if I make a video showcasing a product, I'm already a highly targeted audience for that product. We're already isolating out people that aren't interested for the most part, or at least, at the very least, the people we do have watching are interested in this subject matter. We've already proven that. On top of that, once the commercial is made, that commercial airs every single time somebody clicks on it at no additional expense to the company for the rest of eternity. It stays on YouTube unless it gets removed. So compared to a regular television or radio commercial, offering to send somebody a $600 NAS in exchange for a commercial worth $40,000, $50,000 in what it would cost to write it, pay for actors, pay for camera operators, sound engineers, editing, have full control of that, and then pay individual radio stations and TV stations every single time it airs to a general audience, some of which may be interested, some of which may not be. It's insulting to me that a company will expect me to do $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 worth of work. In exchange, I'm going to get a $600 NAS. By the way, $600 is the retail price. That's not their actual cost of production. That makes it even more insulting. And the fact that other content creators will take this on and then not tell their audience genuinely that, there's something happening behind the scenes that you don't know about. I kind of wish we went back to the old ads. At least the ads were honest. All right, so that's off my chest. I really honestly want to give this a pure review without UGREEN's involvement, for better or for worse. Okay, that's my goal. And I know it starts off quite negative and skeptical because UGREEN has led me there. And now I want to wonder why. What is it they're afraid of? Okay, that's why I'm coming at this with this attitude. But at the same time, when it comes to doing the job, I do this job no differently than any other product review. If it's good, I'll tell you. If it's bad, I'll tell you. And likely, I will find both. And hopefully, there'll be far more good on this than bad. That's what I'm hoping for. Because if I honestly thought the whole thing was bad, or the majority of it was bad, I wouldn't waste your time. All right. Let me say hello to everybody joining us here on a rare Saturday broadcast for us. And a shout out and thank you to our good friend Buster. Peter Laycock sent a very generous PayPal contribution earlier today. And It's not my birthday yet, but he was sending a birthday present. Actually, he said he has some things coming, so we'll let you know when we get them. You know, thank you so much to our good friend Buster. Luke Greenia joins us along with Mark Baggett, Eddie Casanova. There's Morton and El Perez saying hello. Gil Garcia and Arnold Albert. Mark Gaines and David Chandler. Jose Lopez with a $1 super chat. Thank you, Jose. Welcome in. I also see Gabriel Granados and Frank Jimmy saying hello. There's David Graham. I also see Doman 2000, Ghostly Lurker, Daniel Pert, Andy W6AD, Richard DeFries, Ben Laird, Sean Skinner, Christian Dumitru says hello from Tennessee. Paul Vircher joining us. And Martin Postema says hello. Picard 2005 saying hello. Paul Vircher with a $9.99 super chat. Thank you, Paul. Picard, did I say that one? Says hello. Eugene Ildago says hello. There's Steve Chappelle and Ron Barnish joining us along with Daniel Schroeder. There's Buster with a 10-pound super chat letting us know that the temperature in Bonnie, Scotland is 56 degrees Fahrenheit. It'll be 111 degrees Fahrenheit today in Phoenix. But you enjoy that 56 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 13.3 Celsius for those of you outside of the USA. And thank you, Buster. Thank you for your super chat and your gift today. It was very unexpected and appreciated very much. Scrolling. Dazzle555 says hello. Dennis Hill joins us and says hello. There's Andy Kane and Kenton Morton saying hello. That's K-Cordius Technology. That's how he was known in the chat for a long time. Welcome in. Raven 4K says hello. And Patrick Ollie joining us. Michael Brown and James Prezi say hello, along with Patrick T. Nab Hugh Rules says hello. He says, thank you for the independent review. I was upset by someone on X that talked about the $3,000 smart telescope they were showcasing images from, not disclosing the company who sent it to them. Listen, we have I have seen on Facebook small businesses advertising, you know, we only use quality parts or whatever, showing an example of the parts they use assembled, but it wasn't them that assembled it. If you do a search on the image, it's a product image from the manufacturer of the products they buy. You know, you could tell it was suspicious because everything was too perfect, right? Everything was labeled what everything was. Like, who installs like that? And then, you know, it was just very suspicious. Like, if this person is advertising the kind of work they do by saying, I only use quality parts, and then there's a picture of something under construction, it implies that's work they did, but it isn't. That's not what it really is. What it is they took a stock image from the manufacturer's website and then posted it on social media as though, although they didn't exactly say they did it, certainly implied, look at my handiwork, you know? And I find that profoundly disappointing because it's dishonest. Whether it's intentional or not, maybe they weren't thinking. There should be a disclaimer. You know, this is not my photo. This is not a photo of my work. This photo source came from where? Your camera or somebody else's? That should be disclosed. And if it isn't, you've got to ask yourself as a viewer, what am I looking at here? Because the inference is they're related. But if you really look for a direct association, a direct citation, reverse Google image search is a very powerful tool, especially on dating sites where people's pictures get stolen all the time and scammers pretend to be people they aren't. Facebook profiles, the same thing. So just keep in your back pocket that you can do this research if you want to. If you're not willing to do the research, accept it for what it is, which is Maybe it's deceitful, maybe it's honest. So don't weigh it any more than that until you get a consensus. And I don't know how many other YouTube channels are able to go out and buy the products so that they can do an honest review. And if that's important to you, then please support us, because I don't know anybody else that does this. Again, somebody might be running a business and they sell products, and the products they sell, they're buying, like any other business, and then they do a YouTube channel on the side. That's how Linus Tech Tips got started for, what was the name of that company? NCIX? Well, they're out of business now, but that's a legitimate way to finance a YouTube channel, is through a business. Or if your business is promoting your own products, like maybe you're in the manufacturing business and you want to make videos showing your product, that's honest. But if you're paying other people, other content creators, to promote your product, but you don't fully disclose that, if the content creator chooses not to disclose that, that tells you how much respect they have for their viewers, all right? They're just lying in their pocketbooks, they don't care. The content creators that come out with full transparency and full disclosure, they have integrity. Those are the ones I subscribe to and will go back to over and over again, because finding them is very difficult. Oh, they exist. They definitely exist, but they are not the majority. So you have to search them out. So anyway, let's get going. I think anybody else joining us? I want to say, make sure I say hello to everybody. Oh. Claudio Ventura says hello. Welcome in, Claudio. All right, I think I'm caught up. Oh, Michael Lavelle says hello. There we go. Now I think I'm caught up with you guys. All right, are we ready to get the review underway? We ordered this from Amazon thanks to our members, thanks to our supporters. We were able to just buy this. We did not have to play by anybody's rules other than my morals. Some people might find my morals to be unreasonable. That's just not the way business works, Carey. Well, I'm not in this for business. I'm in this for authenticity and truth. Profit comes second. It's a terrible business model if you want to get rich. But if you want to have a clear conscience and sleep well at night, or at least for me anyway, this is the only way to live life as far as I'm concerned, because everything you do sets up everything you get going forward. So that's the way I see the world. And I realize I'm weird. I get it. Everybody else is out for just grabbing a buck. Step on somebody else to get yourself a little bit higher. Feeding frenzy. I refuse. I refuse to participate. I refuse to be used in that way, and I refuse to use others that way. Period. So when somebody tries to do that to me, I push back hard. But I never try to do that to other people. All right. We do this live. There's no script. There's no rehearsal. There's no editing. Everything you see happens in real time by a real working computer technician that's demonstrating to you the kind of work that we do, the challenges we face, and how we overcome them, and it is what it is. Okay, for better or for worse, here we go. I am very much, and again, I want to reiterate, I'm looking forward to this. I think this is going to be a great NAS, and I think UGREEN just set themselves up unnecessarily, okay? I hope I'm not wrong. Okay, I guess I could have taken it out of that box first, huh? Now, we did order this from Amazon, so if I despise it, just like any other product, I can send it back to Amazon free of charge within 30 days. I wouldn't do that out of nastiness. In other words, whether or not I make a video review of this or I review it privately doesn't negate any legitimacy of not liking it and wanting to return it. Now, if I'm buying products strictly for reviewing and already know when I ordered it, I'm sending it back, Amazon will catch on to that pretty quick and say, you know, you're not shopping here anymore. You're costing them too much money. But yeah, when I really despise a product or a product doesn't work, it doesn't matter if it's something that I don't make a video on or I do. It doesn't change the review policy, right? But if all you're doing is buying things to review with the intention to send it back, that will catch up with you. Amazon will realize what you're doing and they'll ban you, basically. All right, so anyway, the unit we have here, let's talk about it for a minute before I take it out of the box. I mean, what's the point of taking it out of the box? I haven't really gone over what it's supposed to be, right? So let me jump over to UGREEN's page. This is going to be essentially their Kickstarter campaign. And if we go over there, let's see, window capture that. There it is. We have links. These links that I'm showing you are in the video notes below the video. So this is a 4-bay. It's an Intel Pentium Gold 8505. What is that? That's a 12th gen Intel processor. Does it say it's got 5 cores? Yeah, 5. How do you get to 5? Well, you've got 4 efficiency cores and 1 performance core that's hyper-threaded. So therefore, you actually have 6. It's 5 actual cores with 6 threads. Okay, so that's how that works. It does have 2.5 gig LAN and 10 gig LAN. I don't know why that's not listed here. And 4K HDMI out if you wanted to, I don't know, run TrueNAS or something like that. You'd have to see the screen to boot, and you know, it's got a BIOS and everything else, I guess. So you'd have to be able to see that somehow. And therefore it's got an HDMI output, which can probably be used for some other things that I don't ever use an HDMI output or any form of video output on a NAS. But that's just the way I use them in business. How you use it at home, well, it's up to you. Now they do have these available in numerous sizes. There's a 2-bay, 4-bay, 6-bay, and that's usually represented by the first number in the model. So 4800, 4 bays, 6800, 6 bays, you know, something like that. And they go through explaining how it's used if you don't know what it is. They talk about, you know, their Kickstarter backing on the product, which again, I think is really bizarre for an established company. There's information about the 10 gig and the 2.5 gig output, along with port layouts, right? They've got an SD card slot there, a USB-C port on the front. Everything looks fantastic on here, by the way. Lots of ports. The CPU is far more powerful than what you find in a lot of less expensive or even similarly priced NASs. And then they have a plus model of this and a non-plus. And the version that's the plus gives us that 10 gig connection, a more powerful processor. So we went with the plus model because it's $600. That's a fair price. And if you want to, you can go over to Amazon and see how it's promoted there. You'll see it's about $600. You have to provide your own drives, and it looks fantastic. Everything about it looks fantastic. So that's why I didn't understand UGREEN's necessity to control the review. What are they afraid of? If I were UGREEN, I'd be very proud of this based on everything I'm seeing. And I would give it to a reputable reviewer for an honest feedback review. So again, we've got all this information here, remote access, smart assistant, etc., how you can use it. All of that information is available to you. Look at all this info. Just keep going. Every time I go down a page, every page has 5 tabs with more info. So they're not shy on info. When it says up to 112 terabytes of storage, I think it's a big mistake for companies to do this because that's based on the size of hard drives available today. This number will inevitably get larger next year. So Why would you limit yourself or have to redo your marketing every time a larger size mechanical drive comes out from Seagate or Western Digital? You know, drives haven't stopped growing. This is the point at which they've grown today. And 4 of those, plus 2 NVMe drives at 4 terabytes apiece, can total 112. But NVMe drives are getting larger, and hard drives are getting larger in capacity as well. So by limiting yourself to today's limits, this advertising or promotion or marketing information is going to become basically detrimental. It's going to hurt the sales because it's likely not going to get updated as drives get bigger. It costs money. They should have just did it right out of the gate and said, you know, even a disclaimer, something that says, based on the size, the capacity of drives today, this will hold 112. But it can hold more in the future as drive technology continues to increase capacities. That's how I would have done it, right? That's some feedback that's meant to be useful, meant to be helpful. When you look at these reviews, you can't help but wonder, is this a purchaser? Or is this somebody who got a unit for free that also agreed to leave an Amazon review? Here's somebody who didn't like it. He says, I can't believe no review videos, Redditors have said anything about the terms you were forced to sign from China. I'm not being xenophobic. I think that's spelled with an X, isn't it? Anyway, but really read the license agreement and the terms you have to sign when getting this. He goes, this is not verbatim, but the way I remember it, he's paraphrasing, you may not use this product for business purposes without the express written consent from UGREEN. How do they enforce that? Good luck. You may not use this product in any way that does not conform to the Constitution of the People's Republic of China. Again, how do they enforce that? Unless you're in China, what are you going to do? You may not store or transmit anything on the device or out of services that we deem subversive to the People's Republic of China. It goes on in that way. So this person seems to be very worried about the end user license agreement. But do you yourself, have you ever had a legality issue regarding terms of service or an end user license agreement, or do you know anybody who has? Because unless you're in a regulated industry, there's really no way to enforce this on home users. So I don't know if that's really a big deal. Who bothers to read it anyway? Everybody else seems pretty happy with it though, right? So is that person just a little bit crazy, unreasonable, and everybody else is just sheep? Or, you know, who's right and who's wrong? We can take a quick look at the end user license agreement, but the question you've got to ask yourself is, how will they enforce that? It doesn't seem possible. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they have a way. I don't know. But I wouldn't be too worried about the boogeyman. If you don't behave, the boogeyman's going to get you. Oh, okay. All right. Can't wait to see Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster and Sasquatch. They're all just hanging around at a poker party in the forest somewhere. They do exist. Chupacabra's coming. Governments and large corporations like to instill fear in order to get people to conform to their rules. So the question is, how do they force your conformity? In some cases, they have ways. But if it's another country that has no say in what our laws are, and our laws have no say in what their citizens do, we can threaten all day. It's just a dog barking at the fence. It's just noise. So I'm not too worried about it. Now, if I hear any stories of somebody getting their device updated and bricked because they violated the terms, I'll change my attitude, but I'm not aware of that ever happening from a foreign country to the United States. So, and if it does happen with any product we've, covered here, I will follow up and make people aware. I'm just trying to get these tabs open. There we go, there's one. There's two. Okay. Go back over to our chat room here. See if I can do both at the same time. Morton says the TOS is TLDR. Too long? Didn't read. All right, here we go. Hey, there's Charlie Purdy saying hello. Welcome in, Charlie. Icaranus saying hello. All right, here we go. This is what it looks like on the inside. Okay. Just put that over there. And then we've got, looks like a box with, I would imagine, is a power brick and cables, and then the NAS itself. There's that. It's kind of heavy for an empty NAS. Come on. All right. I guess that was pointless for me to cut this end because there's no opening on this side. They were just folding the end of the bag, which is at the front of the unit. All right, so turn it on its face and do that again. That's better. All right, it looks about the same shape and size as anybody else's NAS. Doesn't look like we've got any innovation in its format. Its footprint looks identical to QNAP and Synology and AsusStor and others, so it's neither here nor there, but really nothing in innovation here. That's fine. They don't have to innovate everything. And let's see if we can get to a close-up of it. Is that going to work? Yeah, that's a little bit better. So on the front, there's our drive base. On the back, what does that say? UGREEN magnetic dust filter. Oh, it's got a big fan in the back. All right. We don't want to block our fan filter with this. This should this should absolutely be, this piece should be removed or it's going to block your airflow. Okay. So, oh, and it says UGREEN. All right. I like that. That's a good design. Where's our ventilation at? I guess just going, this is blowing air in or out the back. Well, I suppose if it's got a filter on it, it's going to be sucking air in. Why would you filter exhaust air? So the fan is going to bring air in on this side and out through the front. I suppose common sense, if it's got a screen, it's not going to be keeping the dust inside. Carey, come on, Carey, get with it. All right, so air goes in the back, comes out the front. There's going to be some ventilation in the gaps you see here. And I don't know, are there any other holes in it? Oh, we have an access plate right here. So in the access plate, if I get my glasses and a screwdriver, we'll poke behind here and see why this is here. If it's an access panel, then it's designed to access something. Nothing there. Oh, all right, screws come all the way out. They're not held captive. Fair enough. I see a place to add RAM. I see a place for an M.2 and another M.2. Am I looking at that right? Yeah, M.2, M.2. So that could be used for caching, read caching, write caching, extending your storage, yada, 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 yada. And then, of course, just regular, is that DDR5 or DDR4 RAM? I'm not sure. And this is interesting, too. If you look right here, there's a spring. Oh, that's clever. That's a really clever idea. What this spring does is when you take the screws out, look at this. When I take out the screws, I don't have to get a spudger or something in there in the seam to pull this away, nor is there like a pull handle. They just put a little spring in here. Oh man, that's genius. Why is this not normal? Why is this the first time I've ever seen that technology for a removable panel? Because we've all struggled getting these panels off, or even sometimes they have the little plastic clips. This is all metal, by the way, so it's not going to break. There's no rubber feet to remove to hide the screws. Yeah, did you hear that? That's metal. And easy access. We don't have to tear the thing apart to add NVMe or upgrade storage as you do on some other manufacturers' similarly designed models. Sometimes you have access to one or the other. Like you may have access to NVMe, but not to the RAM. There's been models where you have to take the whole cover off to get to the RAM. This is a good design. I appreciate that. Now, I don't want to add any more RAM or add any NVMe for the reasons of, well, quite frankly, the way I use a NAS and the way my customers use a NAS. We don't need the added RAM and we don't need the caching. But it's there if you want to use it. And let's put this panel back in so I don't lose the screws. I really like that little spring. I really like that. It appears this whole thing's made of metal. Interesting. They didn't scrimp on the manufacturing quality of the materials, at least on the housing. When it comes to these drive bays, they have a little key slot here, and that's to lock. But this is just a little piece of plastic. It's not like you can't get a flathead screwdriver and bust it out if it were locked. I don't know why anybody would lock this other than to stop somebody from being curious and potentially taking your network down. Normally, we just ignore these locks because they're not secure. And all it does, for the most part, is slow down somebody who's legitimately trying to get into it, and you can't release the drive bay that you need to get into until you find the damn key because somebody thoughtlessly locked it like that was really going to keep anybody out. Somebody wants to get in there. That's a cheap lock. Very easy. A 3-year-old could bust that lock open. So it's really just there for theater and to prevent somebody from, I don't know, say you got kids running around the house or something and you're afraid the kids are going to just be poking around. The solution is to get this up on a high shelf, keep it away from the kids. Because if you just lock that, it might keep the kids out for a while. I don't know. But you should be able to push that down and then that lever pops up. And then each one of these drive trays slides out. And by the way, even though they're numbered, you don't have to put them in that order. My OCD will require me to put them back in order, but you don't have to. They're all exactly the same. If anything, it's adding to the manufacturing cost by numbering them. Usually the number's in the slot, not on the tray, but that's okay if they want to do that added cost. Now, with these plastic trays, I like that there's no metal like we saw on the Terra-Master, and these are the drives that we took out of the Terra-Master yesterday, and or that we reviewed yesterday. And having metal underneath here means that there could be contact with the metal underneath the drive. Some drives have a bigger circuit board than others. And that's why Terra-Master includes that paper that I'm not a big fan of, because eventually you might lose it, tear it, or need to replace it. I don't know where you get that. I mean, I suppose you could use some scissors and make your own, but the fact is you would never need to do that on a plastic drive tray. And I'm sure these probably cost less. Now, how do we install a drive in here? Well, normally we take the drive. If you look at any other NAS we reviewed, and we usually just bend the sides, and it does make me cringe a little bit when I do that. But this tray is a little bit different. If you look very closely, you'll see it's got a hinge here. Right here. It's a little different on this side. That doesn't exist on this side. Are you paying attention? And there's what appears to be a lever right here. So if we push that lever in and slide, it pulls back about 1 centimeter. So now we're not bending the trays. Not that that's ever caused a problem, but this is certainly a much more sound installation. If you're not confident, this feels a lot more like, okay, you know what I mean? Like this just feels better, and clearly I don't have the drive in straight. So make sure you put this side in first and then slide this in, and it should align with the mounting holes on your drive. Always make sure your SATA ports are going you don't want your SATA ports up here. You'll be opening this up, or struggling to get it to fit, and that holds our drive in place. All right, but you don't need a screwdriver, you don't need any tools, other than if you want to get in and put an NVMe or RAM in there, and then we just slide this back in. I think that's great. I really appreciate the approach, innovative approach to the drive trays. This should be normal, standard procedure for all drive trays, as far as I'm concerned. You should be able to get in and get out without any specialty tools, without having to take the NAS apart. Some NASs you've got to take the cover of the NAS apart to get to the drives on the inside. I will not use NASs like that. Those are usually less expensive NASs designed for home use. The idea about a NAS is that while it's running, if you have a failed drive, you can hot swap or change the drive while the unit's on. But not if you've got to take the whole thing apart to get to the drives, and you've got to unscrew the drives and remove a drive from a carriage and unplug cables. No, 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 no. Then you might as well just use your home computer. There's no point in you having a NAS if you don't have the benefit of being able to easily resolve failed drives, preferably without any tools and without having to disassemble the unit or even remove a cover. Just slide the tray out, put your new drive in, and then let the rebuild of your data begin, and you're done. Get on with life. There's other things to do. We're pushing this drive as far as it'll go. You'll see there's a gap, but looking very closely, there's little plastic ribs that the drive is actually right up against those ribs. That leaves that probably like an air gap. Underneath, you might be asking, what if I wanted to put 2.5-inch drives in this? Well, just like every other NAS on the market, you have to screw those in, and the plastic drive tray has holes here, 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 and here, because the back of the drive still has to be on this edge. So you're going to push your drive in, so the back of the drive is right at this edge, and you're going to use screws that I'm assuming are included in this box so that you can secure a 2.5-inch mechanical or SSD inside of here, just that this is a 3.5-inch tray. That's true of every NAS I've ever seen, by the way, that holds 3.5-inch drives. If it holds 3.5-inch drives, it holds 2.5-inch drives. But the 2.5-inch drives will require screws, because there's no way we can get this any smaller and then have it not just fall out of the hole, right? So in any event, one last drive to go. And then we'll look in our accessories box, we'll get it plugged in, we'll fire it up and see what it's like. So far, I don't see what UGREEN is worried about, that they feel like they have to see a video before I'm allowed to show it to you. That seems unnecessary so far. I'd be boasting and showing this off. I wouldn't be trying to control people's reactions. But, you know, I don't run UGREEN, so what do I know? All right, let's open our accessory box. Drives are installed. Now, those drives still have the Terra-Master RAID on there, and I'm assuming, since this is not Terra-Master, it's not going to recognize this, and it'll treat them like foreign drives. In other words, it should come up no differently than new drives will. They'll say, hey, you might have something on these you're going to lose. Okay, that's fine. Oh, nice packaging here. We've got some documentation, apparently, a nice booklet in there from the way it feels. It tells us right on the box what's in here. It's a DC 19-volt 7.9 amp power adapter. And then it also says in here you'll find an Ethernet cable, a screwdriver, and screws. And it's all just one piece of cardboard. And inside, sure enough, we've got, what is this? A standard cloverleaf laptop style power connector. And we have, what is this? Oh, well, I'm disappointed that's not in a resealable bag, but those are all of the screws if you wanted to secure 2.5-inch drives. And there's a little screwdriver, which I think are useless, but you know, maybe you have nothing. I mean, back in the 80s, this would be useful, but today you can buy screwdrivers for $2.50 that are much more practical than this off of Amazon or even Harbor Freight Tools if you have one of those in your area. Tools have become very cheap in 2025 compared to how much tools were in the 1980s. We've got a solid Ethernet cable here. I mean, I don't know why it's got dust jackets. Is it supposed to get dusty in the plastic that's in the box, that's in the box, that was in the box, that was in a box that was shipped? I'm not quite sure, other than adding to the landfill, why these have dust covers, but there you go. And this is a, what? Category 7? Category 7 Ethernet cable. Okay. I think these are just a waste of landfill. I've had Ethernet cables exposed to the elements for over 10 years and they work fine. They're not sensitive to dust, so I have no idea why that's added. It's completely, in my opinion, unnecessary. And then what's this? Oh, it's another. All right, you get 2 Ethernet cables because you have 2 Ethernet ports. I get it. Oh, we've got some thickest pads I've ever seen for NVMe drives. Ooh, they're all squishy. It's like opening up a sponge. All right, well, that's for, I guess you touched, I've never seen anything. This is bigger, thicker, heavier than any NVMe drive I've ever held. I mean, look, you can't complain about the quality. Plop, plop. I guess you guys can't see it. Plop, plop. And then what else? We've got a sticker. Little teeny tiny user instruction manual. A pair of keys. Well, it's kind of not how I would define a key, but okay. It's just a slot. So if you wanted to lock these, you can see a flat blade screwdriver would easily work. And you can lock it, and now you can't open it. I don't see how this is keeping anybody out, but you do get 2 of them in case you lose one. Or just use a flat blade screwdriver, which, I don't know, I would think that's going to work just as well. Hey, what do you know? I got a key. No one ever called this a key before, but all right. It's a nice thought. I don't know that I agree with the execution. Finally, we have the power brick, right? That's all that's in here. That's it. Throw that over there. And the power brick does not say UGREEN on it at all. It's got the name of the power brick manufacturer. So if these 2 items get separated, this is not something you want to confuse with another device, like maybe after a move, or you've put it away, and now you have several bricks with this standard barrel power connector. Does this go to a mini PC? Does this go to a laptop? And if you plug it in the wrong thing, it could not only destroy the power adapter, more than likely it will destroy the thing that you plugged it into that it does not belong. So I recommend you get a label maker or like a silver Sharpie and write UGREEN on it. And even maybe if you have more than one UGREEN, write down which model it's for, because even with the same manufacturer, different models may have different power requirements or polarities. So just because this end fits doesn't mean you've got the right thing. UGREEN did such a good job in providing overkill on so much, but I'm surprised they didn't put their own name on this somewhere, the name of what it goes to. A little disappointed with that because they did everything else so well. This is an oversight that is oftentimes pretty common on many PCs, you know, where it's not labeled. And it does warn you, this item, this gets hot. You know, if it's going to deliver up to 8 amps, it's reasonable that this will get hot, but not so hot that you got to worry about a fire, but hot enough that you don't need to call tech support just because you're worried. That's basically what that's saying. Hot is normal, leave it alone, don't call us. It's not a support call. It's running as intended. All right, let's get this plugged in. Let me switch back over to camera 1. And I'm not going to read the documentation. Let's just plug it in. And I need to give it, unlike a mini PC, when you first fire up a NAS, it likely needs to download an image to put on one of your drives to boot from. And it'll do that based on, basically it's like a BIOS. And what it'll do is automatically see you have no operating system, automatically go out to your internet, assuming you've got DHCP turned on, which, unless you know what that is, you probably do have it turned on. And it'll go out automatically, install the software. That might take a minute. And then when it's done, then we get to the operating system. We can log into the operating system through our browser and configure the drives that are in it, however we want to configure them. That is standard, ordinary practice. That's what I expect our next few steps to be. Let's find out. I need a power cable, so I'm just going to use my own power cable because it's longer and I don't want to unwrap all these wires. And I need an Ethernet cable, which I have down here on the floor as well. Although this does have an HDMI out, I'm not hooking this up to a monitor because I'm not replacing the operating system with something other than UGREEN. And this does have a BIOS very similar to a mini PC. So if we want to look at that later, remind me, and I'm happy to show you what it looks like. But normally with a NAS, you don't go into any BIOS. But with a NAS like this that you can put your own operating system on, you need a way to boot from like a USB drive that would have TrueNAS on it or something, no differently than a Windows installation boot drive, right? You see me pull out the flash drive to install Windows 11, and I need a way to tell the unit to boot from that instead of what's on it. That requires some kind of BIOS control. And there may be some other options in the BIOS that are useful, but nothing that's required, right? And well, again, if you remind me, we'll look at it. Now I have two Ethernet ports back here, and one says LAN 1 and one says LAN 2. But what I'm curious is, which one is the 10 gig port? It appears LAN number 1, the one closest to the edge, is our 10 gig. All right, let's power it up and see what happens here. Hit the power button. Let me move all this stuff over here and get it out of my way. This can go back in the box. Get the table cleared off here a little bit. All right, so you'll see it's initializing. Kind of looks like a Cylon. Actually, that's more like Knight Rider. I don't know. Anyway, letting my age show. Do you have any non-80s references? No. What? All right. What we should be able to do to locate this is either there'll be an app we can download. We can do like an ARP command line and see if we can find the IP address. Or like with Synology, you can go to find.synology.com. And I think UGREEN has something similar. I think it's UGNAS. Find UGNAS. It's probably in the documentation. So we wait till those lights are all lit up. And now we should be able to sign into this. Let's open a browser. Let's look for it together. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you everything behind the curtain here. There's nothing I'm hiding from you. I'm going to Google search for find UGNAS. It says this is called the Web Finder. First link. Oh, and it's already running. That was super easy. There it is. We did not need to load any software. There's our IP address, and we hit connect. Wow, that was really easy. It defaulted apparently in a Chinese, whether it's Cantonese or Mandarin, I don't know, but then automatically adjusted to see that we are in English and adapted to that. And you saw that happen where it kind of is it's looking at your current settings instead of asking you what language and region are you in. It can just look and see what your region and language is set in your browser. So that was smart. I like that. Welcome to UGREEN NAS storage. We will guide you for initialization. Guide you through initialization. You have to accept the user agreement. So this is apparently what the person was issued concerning about. We recommend you pay careful attention to specific terms which are marked in distinctive manner or in boldface. All right, so apparently there's something in here that is alerted the person on Amazon to a 1-star review. But again, they can write whatever they want in here. That doesn't mean it's legally enforceable. So bear that in mind. If you work for UGREEN, they could fire you if you don't follow these rules. But if you're a customer of UGREEN, there's likely not much they can do. Just so you know, this is all boilerplate nonsense so far as I can tell. You know, you may be liable for any consequences. Give me an example. Show me an example of what punishment was for what reason that actually happened outside of their imagination. Give me an example of this that really happened. As far as I know, this has never, ever happened. It's just, it sounds scary, right? It's pretty much unenforceable, just so you know, to an end user. To a company that's benefiting, making profit from this device, look, if the company has a lot of money to take, a big corporation, it might be worth it for them to go after. So I don't worry about this because I have no context of any experience or reference point of this ever happening to myself, to anybody I know, or to anybody I've ever talked to online that I can verify as a real person. Then there's terms of use for minors. Again, this is all mostly to cover their butts. This isn't really about you at all. This is about them. So, you know, it makes them feel good that they put this in here because people will believe this and they will abide by it. And in all conditions, typically, people will abide by it simply because it doesn't make any sense not to. So there you go. So I'm scrolling through this slowly so that people have time if they want to go back through this video and pause the video to read it. It's all right there for you. It's also up here at this website if you want to read it on your own screen independently. All right? It's not being hidden. So we're going to accept the terms and click on Start. Now, when you search on your network for the device name, I don't want to name this long. That's way too long for me. So I would just say, I'm going to just call it UGREEN because I don't have anything else on my network that I would confuse that with. And then the administrator account, I'll say it's admin. Is it going to let me use admin? No. Okay, I'm going to use Carey. And for my password, can I put any password in, or is it going to restrict me the way Terra-Master did? Or Synology. Some of them, man, I'll tell you what, they dictate to you if your password's strong enough. If I want a weak password, and I mean, it should warn me, but it shouldn't force me to have to accommodate the requirements, in my opinion. But, you know, maybe I don't know better, so tell me. Leave it up to me to make that decision. Let's find out. Let's just use the same password you used before, because that's over the top. Okay. Next. Do I want to save the password? No. Register and bind your UGREEN cloud account to enable remote access. If you enable remote access for yourself, then you potentially enable remote access for hackers. If they hammer on it long enough and you're not keeping up on system updates, you could become a victim of ransomware or virus or data theft. The only way to guarantee, in my opinion, and in my experience as a professional technician with decades of experience, the only way To 100% secure this is to turn off remote access. Don't enable it. So I'm going to hit skip. Do you want to skip? After skipping, you can't access device remotely through the internet. Oh, there's other ways. There's other ways, but okay, I'm fine with it. I appreciate that they've let us know. Okay, so registration's completed. Do you only want important updates? No, I want all updates. I don't care if they're deemed important or not. This is also what I see on QNAP, a very similar type option here. This is a very dangerous option to pick because human beings get distracted and forget. This is a very minimal acceptance of updates. I would personally only consider this option for myself and for my clients, and I don't ask them what they think because I don't want to deal with the aftermath of somebody else's decision. So if I have any negative repercussions, this is my fault and my responsibility. Initialize and local account. Both administrators created during initialization and new users created in the control panel. All account data, well, go back. All account data stored on local device usually better verified when logging in. Great. All right, what else? Remote access. Okay, we're back to that again. You can access it on your phone and blah, 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 blah. All right, I'm not interested in that, but you might. I'm not. I don't do that for any of my clients. If I want remote access to this, I will use Tailscale, or I will log into a computer using remote access software into one of their Windows machines at the office, and then from their local network only access the NAS. This is basically bulletproof from hackers by using the method I'm describing. But it also, arguably, takes away some of the benefits of having a NAS, meaning that maybe you travel a lot and you want access to your stuff and you want your own cloud. You don't want to use Google Drive or Microsoft Drive. You want to use Carey Drive or whatever your name is. Then yes, this unit can do that, and you definitely want to turn on the remote access to enable that feature. I do not do that for my clients. If my clients want to work from home, they will remote into their work computer that already has Microsoft Office and all their software installed, so we're not buying a separate license for their home. They're going to access all the data on the Office NAS by connecting to the Office computer, and anything they save is saved to the Office NAS. They do not have direct remote access to the NAS, only to their Office computers. So there's no reason for my clients or even myself to need to access the NAS individually. It's already connected to the Office computer, so once we connect to the Office computer, we use it no differently than if we were sitting in the office. Makes setup a lot easier. It resolves a lot of confusion with where files are being saved. And of course, if they need to print something out on their local printer, they can print with the remote access software that we use for desktop access. Often it offers you the ability to print there at the office or to print on your home printer. So, we've already got all this figured out. It says loading completed, the system is rebooting, it may take 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, so that was the download of the operating system, which it's going to store on a small portion of the hard drive. At that point, the hard drives appear to still be uninitialized blank. So we have to set up how we want to use these drives. So to get started, please follow our overview. Start. Okay. You can see all installed apps in the app library. Okay. Control panel gives you instant access to basic controls. Okay. App Center enables users to download and install apps just like your phone. Okay. You can set desktop wallpaper because that's really important. Okay. It's all the same as everybody else. Synology, QNAP, Terra-Master. It looks a little different, but it's all the same functionality. Welcome to the Storage Manager. UGREEN NAS offers various practical hard drive management. Blah, 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 blah. Look, if you guys have a 2-drive NAS, you probably want to do RAID 1. Or you could do RAID 0 if you want the total capacity of both drives. But you'll have to create your own manual backup. Well, you should be creating manual backups anyway. I'm not going to get into all the definitions of RAID. I'm going to tell you if you've got 4 drives, you want RAID 5. That's what you want. That's what it's designed for. If you got more than 4 drives, well, you've got more options. But with 4 drives, any other selection than RAID 5, I hope you know what you're doing. All right, don't put that on me. You do the research if you want to do something different. RAID 5 is the only thing, in my opinion, that makes sense on a 4-drive NAS. You will lose one drive worth of capacity. So if you have 4 22 terabyte drives, we lose one 22 terabyte drive of capacity for the overlap that is spread amongst all 4 drives. What that means is any of the 4 drives can fail at any time, and the NAS will continue to work. People will never even know except the administrator, who gets an alert that says you have a drive failure. Then the administrator can come in, even while people are working and using the NAS, with the NAS on and without any tools, swap that drive out for another one, and it'll automatically rebuild, and nobody using the NAS is interrupted or may even realize anything's happening. It's seamless. It's beautiful. I love it. Everybody should have a RAID 5 array. Now, if you get ransomware or file encryptions and things like that, I hope you still have a backup. If your building is burglarized and someone steals your NAS, if you get a fire, if you get a flood, I could go on and on. You still want a backup of that data is important. But the reason why most people need backups is because of a drive failure. That's the most common reason. If you suffer a drive failure and you ignore it, and then another drive fails, you've lost all the data. But if one drive fails, I highly suggest you get off your butt and get a new drive. If you want to send the drive in for warranty and wait 2 weeks for your replacement to come in, and then put that drive back in and hope you don't suffer another drive failure in the amount of time it takes you to get the replacement drive, that is a gamble. That's up to you. We normally buy a 5th drive for my clients, and we put the 5th drive, leave it in the package, set it on top of the NAS. If the 5th drive matches the other 4, same make, same model, same everything. It's like having a spare tire in your trunk. Hopefully you never need to use it, but many of us have had to go to that spare tire. So what ends up happening is a drive fails. I get an email that alerts me. I go to the office. It doesn't matter if it's during office hours or not. I don't have to interrupt anybody's work. Nobody even knows it's going on. I swap the drive, it rebuilds the array, and in my own time, when I bring the bad drive home, I file the MR. Okay, I think we're back up. It does appear that we've had a... Yeah, I'm seeing it's back up. Yeah, we're back up. No, it's back up for me. Full speed. I just checked it. All right, guys, clearly we've had a bit of an internet hiccup here that affected the entire building. So thankfully, we do keep a recording locally, so we haven't lost anything. But I also caught it pretty early, so we should be able to get back to where we were just a moment before. So let me bring up the screen, and we'll just continue on. This is a live video, and these things do happen. So we're going to go back over here to our window capture on a browser. And what I was talking about is these are 22 terabyte drives. It says right on the front, but it says they're 20 terabyte because they're using gigabytes instead of gigabytes. We've talked about this before. This is a different form of calculation. It is not actually representative of a smaller size being detected. And if you just want to quickly do a gigabytes versus gig, I can spell gigabytes, you can learn all about the difference and how the same number of capacity is calculated differently, leading common end users and even many technicians confused on where the missing data went. There is no missing data. It's how it's calculated. That's the only thing that's different. And there is plenty of information online regarding this. This is not a secret. It's gigabytes versus gigabytes. Notice the difference in the abbreviation. All right, and the reason I point that out is when I know I put a 22 terabyte drive and it says 20, I'm not freaking out. I know exactly why it says that. So just so you know. What kind of RAID do we want to use in this? There's basic RAID, RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 5, RAID 6, RAID 10. Enabling hard drive tests can reduce data error but may slow. All right, that's fine. We can enable the hard drive test. Why not? Select which drives we want to use. Well, I put in 4 drives, and I want to use 4 drives. Okay, rocket science. Depending on the number of drives you use, different RAID arrays and configurations become available to you based on your selection. I will always use every drive and make one array, and it'll be a RAID 5, which is what's recommended. it tells us out of the 88 terabytes, which it calculates as 80 because it's calculating gigabytes instead of gigabytes, or the other way around, I can't remember which one's which, we will lose one drive in storage, which is 60. But Carey, it says 59.9. That's 60. It's just how they're calculating it. It's the same. Don't let the math trick you into how much space there is. If I measure something in square footage or square inches, it's the same amount of space. Oh, people freak me out sometimes. All right, that's it. So you can see very easily, clearly, which drives I've selected because they're highlighted in blue, which RAID I've selected because it's highlighted in blue. This is very clear and intuitive. I don't need any documentation. I am not confused like I was with Terra-Master. This is a much better initialization method. It's much clearer. So we're going to hit next, and we can adjust this to be a smaller capacity if we wanted to create multiple arrays. Good luck. If you want to make your life complicated, man, you have at it. We're not doing it. Now, I don't agree that ext4 is the default option here. This is an old school Linux-based, it's absolutely just outdated and obsolete from my perspective. So if you need some kind of backwards compatibility to something older and you want to just stay in the past, you could have saved money and bought a cheaper NAS. Honestly, I'm just being straight up with you. BTRFS, or the B-tree file system, is a far more advanced, secure, and reliable file system in the sense that the data integrity on this is multiple times better. It is newer and evolved much more so than ext4. So if you asked me 15 years ago, I would be picking ext4. But since it's not 2010, it's 2025, if a NAS does not support BTRFS, I will not use it. That's how important this is to me. Also, if you want to learn about BTRFS, you can go right back up to Google, simply type in BTRFS, and you can learn all about the B-tree file system, where it comes from, what features it offers. Even type in versus ext4 if you want to do your own research on this, okay? And then there's all kinds of discussions on this. So you can flood yourself down, go down that rabbit hole as far down as you want to go, but we're going to move on with today's show. So it says, okay, this is what you're doing. You're creating one volume and you're assigning the amount of data that is all of it, right? We're all the way, you know, this number matches this number. We're going to use all our space that's available while still having the redundancy of the RAID 5 array. So instead of 80 gigs, we've got 60. If the drives were 12 terabyte drives, we'd have 36 gigs instead of 48. If the drives were 4 terabyte drives, we'd have 12 gigs instead of 16. If someone goes, well, it's actually not 12, it's 11.8. I just want to choke you because you're not listening. All right, so let's go next. Okay, storage pool 1, total size, yes. Volume 1, yes. So we're creating the storage pool and the volume in one fell swoop. Unlike with other NASs where these are two separate screens, I like how UGREEN has implemented this into one screen. It doesn't make sense to create a storage pool without creating a volume, so why aren't they tied together? Thank you, UGREEN. I appreciate this design. And you can't create a volume unless you already have a storage pool. So it just makes sense when you're creating one that you're creating the other. Then if you want to create multiple volumes or multiple storage pools, then you can do that individually. But during your initial setup, look, all I'm saying is if this NAS had 12 bays and we had 12 hard drives, maybe I'd create multiple storage pools in that scenario. But with only 4 drives, that's more or less a minimum for RAID 5. Yes, you can use RAID 5 on 3 drives. So that's technically the minimum. But honestly, with a NAS that's 4 drives, it's not really enough, in my opinion, to justify any other RAID format. And RAID 0 is far too risky. So I'm going to hit create. All data in drive 1, drive 2, drive 3, drive 4 added will be deleted. The other content creator had a screen that said your drives are not compatible. The drives UGREEN sent them were not compatible. And they thought they were reading this screen, and so they read it. Actually, they didn't read it. They summarized it for their viewers as if it were this notice. So just because someone's making content doesn't mean they're not aware of the mistakes they're making. All right, format. Please enter the password. Well, clearly they don't want you, they don't just want anybody to format your array. So you would enter the administrator password that we just set for the account. That's a good safety practice. I got no problem with that. There it goes. It's creating it now. And the creating process should only take about a minute. So here it's creating the volume. It's already created storage pool. Otherwise, it couldn't even start creating the volume. Volume needs to be in a storage pool. It's done. Now, anything else, remember on the Terra-Master, we had to synchronize the drive. That's just verifying the drive integrity. And that would take about 24 hours on drives of this size with this many drives. And you can see, just like on the Terra-Master, there's already 2 gigs used, which I'm guessing is the operating system space. You just can't access that. It's just gone, right? That's what you need to use it. You need space to use the space, but it's minimal, so who cares? Now, we had the option, unlike with Terra-Master, and even unlike Synology, UGREEN gives you the option to skip that whole verification process. I don't recommend you do that, but if you want to, I appreciate they giving us the choice. So kudos to UGREEN on their software. So far, everything looks fantastic. I understand this is based on Debian, which is probably the most commonly used Linux flavor. And you know, people that are in the Linux community have a very high respect for Debian. So that may be why, part of the reason why this whole process is a lot smoother, or that the programming in it is better. I don't really know one flavor of Linux from another, but there you go. Data organizing, no storage pools, meet organizing, advanced settings, performance options, quick repair, blah, blah, blah. Information about the hard drives, everything's normal. But hey, it's not changing the number to 22 terabytes, okay? My issue with the Terra-Master was we'd see 22 on some screens and 20 on the other screens. Pick a number and stick with it. Preferably the number should match the label on the drive. If the drive manufacturer says this is a 22 terabyte drive, I want to see 22 terabytes here. But if it's consistently 2 terabytes short, not gigabytes, don't confuse the 2 gigabytes in use with 2 terabytes. That's a very different number. Math is pretty easy if you have a logical mind and you pay attention to details. We can expand the storage using the USB ports on this if we want to continue to add another storage array, or extend this storage array into another unit without having to replace the whole unit. That's a very common feature in QNAP and Synology and Terra-Master. That's nothing unusual or unique. It's a nice feature. I'm glad that they didn't not offer it. Okay. So while this is working, this long process, they're calling it syncing, and Terra-Master called it synchronizing. This is just verification that the drives are in good condition, and it's got to check every sector on every drive. It's going to take a while if you have a lot of drives, or those drives are of a large capacity. This will take as much time as the size of drives and the number of drives as you have. This doesn't change from one manufacturer to another. It will take the same amount of time, and you can continue to use the NAS while that's running in the background. It may not be as responsive, but you probably won't even notice it. Especially if you're not familiar with the NAS, how could you know if it's slow or not? You have nothing to compare it to. So that's fine, we just close that out. 2 settings completed, your new UGREEN NAS is ready to go. Create a volume, we did that. Please create the first folder and upload files. Hey, that's great because we've got a volume with no folders. Well, you gotta create a folder. We could create a personal folder, a shared folder, or a user folder. Wonderful, I'm really liking this. This is great. Create a new shared folder. All right, great. Tells you how to do that. If you're familiar with NASs, it's a pretty simple thing to do. So, what does it say? Personal folder management. Personal folders belong to a specific user, and you cannot share them with anybody else. So that would require a name and a password in order to access the share. I like to keep everything open on my network. I don't like to be harassed for a login. So personal folder available when saved. I don't really think I need one. Can I just cancel? Yeah. I don't need to enable a personal folder. I want to create a shared folder. This is my standard process. This plus sign Pretty standard and intuitive symbol for adding something. So we're going to add a new shared folder or connect to a network folder. Oh, that's an interesting idea. What if you wanted to access a shared folder on your computer from the NAS? That's pretty clever. I like that. I know you can do this with other NAS operating systems, but it's not so obvious. Like, I had to go Googling it to figure out how to do it, because I was trying to move the data off of a different manufacturer's NAS to a different manufacturer's NAS. And in order to do that without a computer in between them, I wanted them to connect together and do it strictly from the NAS using the file explorer in the NAS to look on the network to the other NAS and then copy everything off of that NAS onto the new NAS. I could have just hooked up a computer between them, but that would slow the whole process down and tie up a computer for however many hours it would take to move terabytes of data. If I could move the data at the full 10 terabytes of this NAS, it would take 20 minutes to move 1 terabyte of data if the network and the drives could keep up. That's pretty damn fast. But that's not unique of this NAS. It's what you can expect from a 10 gig connection that's working properly. Create a new shared folder. This folder, I like to call it public. That's the universal word I use. It's going to be on volume 1. And the volume usage limit, it will be the capacity as far as I'm concerned. So as far as I can tell, it'll default to this size maybe. Let's see. Unless I suggest otherwise, it'll default to just one big folder, which is what I want. May not be what you want. We can hide this folder, like keep it a secret folder that you can't just browse to, but I don't want to do that. It's a public folder. And people on my network in this building can access it without any login or password. That's what I want to create. Do I want to enable a recycle bin and only allow the admin to empty it and recover from it? Yes. Yes, that's all very good. People accidentally delete things all the time, and I don't want them recovering their own stuff and finding what other people have deleted. That. Look, it gets really confusing. Let them call me or reach out to me if they need something recovered. Create. That was easy. Shared folder permission. So who are we giving access to? Right now, just Carey. I want everyone to have access to this. So how do we do that? Shared folder. Read and write. So just the administrator can read and write or have access to this, I guess. And since I'm the administrator, how do I add everybody? I don't see a plus sign to add another person. I see a refresh. Let's just click OK. Maybe that's on another screen. Let's see if we go to public folder and we add a user. Not there. Upload files, copy and paste, and cut and paste, rename, management. Is it under management? Settings, maybe. Allow non-admin users to access the full user list for file sharing. Oh, this is interesting. They have a filter that you could hide certain files, like temp files or thumbnail files, I guess, if you wanted to do that. Allow these users to share files. All users. Okay, I mean, that's good. We can apply a speed limit so nobody hogs up the unit, but I never enable that feature, but you could. So these are folders, all right? These aren't users, but user folders. So how do we get to the settings in this public folder again? Properties, permissions. I don't see how to add another user. Apparently it's not done here. That's interesting. It doesn't tell me about guest accounts. This is just NFS permissions. I don't care about that. General. General is just size, location, when it was created, and last time it was accessed or modified, meaning somebody saved or deleted or changed something up. Okay, settings, categories, unique functional. So we were already in here. So apparently there must be like a users folder. And this gets back to the whole remote access thing, which I just disable it for security reasons, and then I don't have to worry about it. Just shut it down unless you absolutely have to have it, which of course is, you know, what the unit's designed to do. I just, for my clients, I'm trying to limit their vulnerability online, since this thing is connected to the internet 24/7. And that means hackers can hack on it all day long, all over the weekend, in the nighttime, from China or wherever they're at, until they figure out how to get in. If you never had a door there to begin with, there's no way for them to get in that way. All right, that's my logic, and that's how I do it. Control panel. Oh, here we go, user management, just like with Synology and Terra-Master. Let's add a new user. Can we create, well, wait a minute. Is there a guest account? Let's see, add, create, username, description, role. Interesting. User group. So we don't have anything that says guest here. This would be creating individual permissions, allowing restricted access of who can see what. If you want to do that, knock yourself out. It's way too time consuming, especially in a business when people quit, people get hired, you have to remove somebody, add somebody, which permissions do they get? What a pain in the butt. So I don't deal with this, but it's nice to know, just like an Active Directory server, you can adjust file access restrictions. Now, I don't know why this is not turned on by default, but without this being turned on, you will not find it on your Windows network. If you browse for it, it won't be there. You'll have to directly access it with a command. This should be turned on by default, as far as I'm concerned. This is important, or you're gonna be really frustrated. What's under advanced? Hide folders who have no permission. Hide shared folders from users who don't have permission. What if we want all users to have permission? SMB protocol, you'll notice SMB1 is not in this list because it's profoundly poor decision making. If you want to use SMB1, you have just basically taken your shields down and opened yourself up to endless attacks online that have made it very easy for attackers to come get you. So I appreciate that it's not in here, thank goodness. Transmission, encryption, blah, 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 signature. Windows 11, you know, they want the signature, but we turn that off using PowerShell commands, and that's on the Windows 24H2 latest update, or somewhere in 24H2 they updated it to require that. So you would have to turn that on if you want to enable all that authenticity. In a small business, again, if you don't know who's in your business and who's accessing your network, you've got bigger problems. What are they doing in the office? Why did you hire them? Or why are they connected to your network? They'd have to be in the building, physically connected, or wirelessly connected if you enable wireless access through your router, which we do not do. Wireless access is guest accounts that cannot access the network or each other. They are isolated from each other. So when the customers come into the business and they want to access the public or the business Wi-Fi, they cannot access the business network, nor can they access any other guests, nor can other guests access them, just like a hotel Wi-Fi. And anybody that's a part of the business that needs Wi-Fi, we have a separate Wi-Fi network for them, but it's not the guest Wi-Fi. All right, we've got options for Mac OS for VFS, which again, I just don't need that. Under more, what do we have? Local master browser. You probably don't have to set anything in here. Symbolic links, blah, 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 blah. This is all pretty technical stuff that I would recommend. Just leave it, save it, apply it. And let's see, if I browse my network, do I see the UGREEN? I do not. It is not appearing. Let me refresh. UGREEN was doing so well right up into this point. Why is SMB turned off by default? I understand why it's there as an option, but who would not be using SMB? Like, that's usually, when you're at this kind of a device, a requirement. When you're at more expensive, higher end enterprise devices, unless there's something I don't know, which is very possible. Let me see, let me refresh. Where's my refresh? Okay, the UGREEN is not showing up on my network. I wonder if I have to restart it for these changes to take effect. After enabling, UGREEN NAS storage data can be connected and accessed by SMB on LAN. Okay, how to use Windows Resource Enter. Oh, they've given us the address. Look at this. Which means you would not, so that's a copy. And then we would just go down to our search bar on by our start button and enter that. And it's asking for credentials. This is what I don't want it to do. I want it to just give me access just like a USB drive was attached. And I want to access an attached drive. The only difference is the drive is attached over the network instead of through a USB port or internally through a SATA cable or M.2. It doesn't ask you for a password when you go to access that. You could configure it if you wanted to, but by default it's open. So I have to find where that is in here. And it's probably under user management, but there should be a way to find how to enable a guest account. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to go back over to Google and type in, whoops, didn't mean to open that. Wrong button. How to enable guest account in UGREEN NAS. You need to configure Samba, okay. This involves creating a username. It's just a guest access thing. If in the share folder, allow the guest. This is what I'm trying to do. If a guest user doesn't exist, create one. That's what I'm trying to do. Depending on your NAS, you might need to restart. Okay, maybe we need to restart the NAS for me to browse it on the network, but that's a different problem from being able to access as a guest. Boy. Everything else was so intuitive and so easy. What am I missing here? File service, device connection. It's got to be under users. User group. Like there should be like a group called guest, and there isn't one. There's no pre-made groups here. And advanced. Oh, this is interesting. Don't allow your password to match your username. Don't allow your users to say, my login name is Carey and my password is Carey. Don't allow the use of common passwords 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So as the admin, I can really annoy people by checking those boxes. Require this and this. I don't want any passwords on this other than logging in and configuring it. Obviously, I want to protect that. So this is not useful to me. User group and then user. I should be able to add. I should be able to create a guest user. Username. Let's just type in guest. I don't know why it's not an option. Password, none. Group, no group. Role, common user. Is it going to let me make that without a password, or it's going to require? See how the boxes highlight in red that have a problem? I appreciate that, UGREEN. I know exactly what the problem is. I don't want a password. Okay, well, this is getting a little confusing. Maybe it's back in the share, the file share. I shouldn't have to guess. They've done everything so great right up until now, walking me through everything. Storage pool, advanced settings. Sometimes it's under the network options. Let me go look under the control panel under our network. This is good. Bridging service order, blah, blah, blah. I don't need that. Data control, I don't need that. So it's not here. Maybe we just search for, nope, nothing found for guest access. File service, that's just a browser, right? Not using FTP, I don't need NFS. Do I? Do I need NFS? You will enable NFS, which may have security risks. Oh, that sounds good to me. Let's see. Let's see if that's what I need, because it says you can edit its access permission in the management page of the shared folder. That's what I'm looking for. So If that requires NFS, I guess that's an option that's been pre-checked on other NASs, because I've never modified that particular setting in my experience of setting up other NASs. Is that the missing key to this whole thing? Let me browse my network again and see if this appears, because again, that may be a separate issue. Maybe it needs a reboot for that to take effect. Yeah, I'm still not seeing the UGREEN when I browse the network. So I'm going to guess a reboot's going to fix that. I wish it would tell me in the UGREEN software if that's what the problem is. As for the file sharing or folder sharing without a password, I think, where are we? Back in the control panel, back under, probably under storage. Oh, I suppose we just go to the storage folder. No, that just has to do with our physical storage. I want to look at the shared folder, which is probably right where I was, back under, not under, yeah, shared folder. It's this folder right here, and there should be some settings. Allow non-admin users. Okay, how about allowing any users, regardless? Not here. That's just for folders, uploading, copying, and pasting, management. Shared folder management. It's right back to where we were, right? Edit. Permissions. Here we go. No, this is right back where I was again. Where is my guest account? NFS permissions. Add. Read and write. All users mapped as admin. How about just root mapped as guest? Will that work? Enter a domain name or a web address. I don't have one. I don't understand this box. I'm not quite sure what it's asking for here. Because an IP address assigned to the server could change through DHCP, I wouldn't want to put that in there, then have it change and then lose access. We did call this UGREEN. Would it accept the name of the unit? And why would it not default to that unless it's referring to an external server somewhere else? Yeah, it's not accepting that. I don't know. I really don't know. So maybe it's not NFS at all. Or maybe, boy, this is a puzzle. Let me go back to camera one for a second, because there may be some of you in the chat room shouting at me going, Carey, it's really easy. But I can't see the chat room right now because I'm full screen on what I'm showing you. So let me go back to you guys. See how many people are frustrated at me. Did I create an SMB share or an NFS share? Both, I believe. I don't need NFS for Samba. Thank you, Barry. So I don't recall ever needing to turn that feature off. I think it's been on by default on other models of NASs I've worked with, but I can't recall with precision because I've never had to turn it on or off regardless. Skip in Perth says, Google create user with no password on UGREEN NAS for the answer. Frank Jimmy said you never created a guest user because it's required to make a password, but that doesn't help me. Like usually there's a guest account you enable on other manufacturers' NASs, and I'm not finding that account to turn on. Barry Klein says NFS is used for the Linux file system or Unix. Okay. Well, that's why I'm not familiar with it. Create user with no password on UGREEN NAS. All right, let's try that. That sounds good to me. What did he say? Hold on, I gotta look at it again. Create user with no password. I see what you're saying. Okay. Don't use the word guest. Create user with no password on UGREEN NAS. Everything UGREEN has walked us through. Everything but this. Creating a user with no password on a UGREEN NAS is not a standard or recommended practice. Yeah, because people, okay, we're not regular common people. We know exactly what we're doing. Please don't tell us we can't do that. We understand what we're doing. Well, it's telling us we have to access the terminal console and do an SSH login. I don't want to do that. That's way too complex. That's ridiculous. Let's see what Reddit says. For those interested in removing the password requirements, you can find them in the control panel under User Management. And then they've attached a screenshot, User Management, and then it does show a gear. Was I missing that before? Was it in front of me this whole time? Probably. All right, let me go back. Thank you for the help. Sometimes I just need to be pointed in the right direction. Let's go back and let's cancel this. I'm not worried about whether or not NFS is enabled or not. That's neither here nor there. Let's go back over to user accounts. So control panel, user management, and they said there's a gear. I do not see a gear. Go back to Reddit. User management, and it shows a gear. The gear it shows is here. We don't have it. You have to select the user first. No, it doesn't appear then. Can't I create a guest account? Not apparently. So that's not very useful. That must be like an older version of UGREEN's software. For those interested in removing the password, they're trying to protect you from your own ignorance. I understand that, but they should still give me the option. They can warn me all they want, but they shouldn't hide it like this. So that's not useful. That was 6 months ago. It should be relatively accurate. Then there's the UGREEN NAS password. I'm not worried about that. There's a beginner's guide. All right, I think we're back. So that was an entire internet outage. Again, not on our end, by the way. Something going on with our internet service provider, which, by the way, also happened to our friend Doug Betts today. He ended up live streaming with his phone through his phone provider's internet access because he could not get his home internet access up and running. So whatever they're doing in Arizona, apparently, they were doing in California. I don't know why they're doing it in the middle of the day. Or now it's reconnected again. There's somebody at the internet service provider that sees a switch on a wall going, I wonder what this switch does. Off, on, off, on. Doesn't seem to do anything. Everybody in Phoenix is like, our internet went down. Oh, it's back up. Oh, it went off again. There's a guy over there flipping the switch. Everything looks good over here. So pretty terrible. I don't know what to tell you. As long as we can broadcast, I don't care. Let me see if I can log back into the UGREEN, because I ended up rebooting the UGREEN while we were waiting, and now it appears on our network browsing. So that enabling SMB did require a restart, and UGREEN software should be updated to tell you as much, in my opinion. And it's possible our UGREEN account or our IP address changed on the UGREEN unit, and I'm still trying to log in from the cached website that I've had up. So let me do another, what was it? Find ugnas.com.
Yes, the IP, that's exactly what happened. The IP address changed when our router got reset, our modem got reset, and it reset IP addresses for everything with DHCP.
So now I can re-log in again. Hey, we're back up. Okay. Okay, well, that was fun. This is why we do it live. These are the real challenges that exist in the real world. We all deal with it. You're not immune from it, and it happens without warning. And it's all about how we get through that. Sometimes it's nothing we can do. We have to wait for our internet service provider. In some cases, could have power outage. You could have all these different things that happen. It's called life, and it's not a big deal. You just deal with it. All right, let me get back over to the chat room. Now my chat should be updated. And it may be possible that we continue to experience outages the rest of today's broadcast because we don't know what's happening at the ISP, if it's done, or if there's more to come. So if it continues, you automatically assume we're continuing to push through these internet issues. A lot of other content creators would just shut it down and pick it up another day. I am way too stubborn for that. So we're going to keep going. And again, we keep a local recording of everything, regardless if it goes out on the internet or not. We have the master file, okay? Just so you know, so you won't have lost anything. So let me get back over to the UGREEN because I'm still trying to figure out how to create a guest account. So I got UGREEN appearing on my network browsing since I rebooted the UGREEN while we were down. And then of course I couldn't sign back into it because I still cached the previous IP address. That's not normal, but it does happen. And when it does, you just simply find the NAS again. It's pretty easy to do. So let me jump back over to our window capture. There we go. And now up here, if you pay attention, that's a different number than it was before. And because I didn't reset the browser after the internet closed or went out, it just kept that the same and kept failing my login. So the first thing I know as a tech is maybe the IP address changed. You'd think the website would come up and say, hey, there's no connection anymore, but it's not quite that good yet. We'll get there. I appreciate the little graph up here I just noticed about CPU and RAM usage along with our upload and download bandwidth being used on the NAS. That's pretty cool. If I click on it, does it bring up a bigger screen? No. And then to reboot the NAS, I simply went over here and chose the reboot option. No big deal. Back over to creating user accounts. Let's get back over to the control panel, back under user management, because it has to be in here somewhere. Advanced settings, we were in here already. User groups. Again, you can group people based on, kids, adults, HR versus sales and marketing, so people don't see each other's files. So it's very much a very viable server replacement at a fraction of the cost and much better security than any Windows server would ever have. Even as a role, like the role should be administrator, standard user, or guest. And they're not offering us that. Just doesn't exist. What other guesses you guys got for me? Update and restore, that should be for our file system. We can update check interval. Just check to make sure we have the latest. And we've checked that box to automatically get the latest updates. There's our resets. We want a factory reset, either the network settings or the factory settings if we were repurposing this or selling it. And then we can back up our config if we have a complicated user list and permissions. We can back that up locally or in the cloud, so that if we ever have to reset this for any reason, we can put all that configuration back without redoing it by hand and trying to remember what did we have to adjust from defaults, especially when it comes to user creation and permissions. I don't have to worry about that with a guest account, right? I just set it once, we're good to go. So the difficulty in creating the user account is a guest user account
is very frustrating to me, and I think UGREEN needs to make this more obvious. And they can put up all the warnings they want about how unwise it is, but don't keep me from accessing it. Back under network, I guess I can turn NFS off, right? Wasn't that in here? No. No. Why wouldn't NFS be in here? Is it file service? Yeah. All right, I guess we'll turn that off because we don't need it. So it's not hurting anything. It's not helping. Advanced settings, enable to bonjour as if you're using Apple devices. Plug and play discovery, that might be useful. Web development, I don't need that. rsync, I don't need that. FTP, I don't need that. SMB, is there an enable guest network, guest access for SMB? Because I don't see it. Advanced. No, it's not in here. We've already been in here. We're not using Mac OS. What about more? Local master browser? No, it's working fine. I can see it on the network. Windows automatically handles that, hands it off as needed. Don't need to override what's happening for us unless you like to go back to the old school and do everything by hand. You should not need this. Not in 2025. That's my opinion, but you do you. So the terminal server is what they're telling us to enable, basically SSH. Log into the terminal, telnet into it, putty into it, and then run these commands to enable the guest account as if we were in 1992. I'm not a fan of this technique. This is not the way modern software should run. And I'm assuming, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt that UGREEN has it in the graphical user interface, but we're not locating it for some reason. I hope that's the case, because if I have to telnet into this and do it like it's 1992, they have completely spoiled an otherwise great operating system setup and interface. They've ruined it. It's like the expression, a turd in a punch bowl. That's all it takes to ruin an entire punch bowl. One little thing and the whole thing's ruined. So I hope this is just a lack of familiarity and experience on my side with this product. Again, they're welcome to warn me about it, but they shouldn't restrict me from it. It's my device, right? That's how I want it configured. And they won't allow me to do that without being really technical. Then I have no use for this manufacturer's device. Or I replace their operating system with TrueNAS, which you can do, by the way. But I don't want to deploy TrueNAS in a business. That's fine for home users. We need a chain of blame when it comes to liability in business, or it ends with you and a lawsuit and your fiscal responsibility to damages. So that's just not a game I play. All right, let's get back over to camera one and just take a look here at the chat one more time and see what else I might be missing. That, sometimes you guys, if you don't have the right answer, sometimes you end up putting me on a path to the right answer. Gary says, hello, Carey. UGREEN does not have a guest account. You have to create a user. Hey, there's Mike's unboxing reviews and how-to. Now, he's already reviewed the UGREEN, and he says, add a new user, call it guest, and set it to read-only. I don't want it to be read-only. I want guest access to have read and write access. Barry Klein said in Samba, you configure allow guest access and then map to guest. To bad user, I don't know where it is on their GUI. GUI is a graphical user interface, or some people call it the console. Where's the console, the telnet? I'm not sure. It's a different world. All right, Mike. So he's saying add a new user, call it guest, and set it to read only. Bad user, Barry says, is a special code for user without password. All of this should be intuitive at this point. Again, we're not in the 90s. We should not be playing those kind of games. Mortant said it's time for a Coke and Doritos. When is it not time for a Coke and Doritos? Good enough for breakfast. It's good enough for lunch. It's good enough for dinner. Good enough for a midnight snack. It's good enough for a 3 o'clock in the morning snack. I can't think of a time when it's not good. Paul Connolly wants to know, could it be due to the lack of a guest account due to regulatory requirements? Only in certain fields that have regulatory rules. So if we're not part of that, then that doesn't apply to us. If this is a unit that is specifically sold to accountants, and therefore they already know what the regulations are in the United States in regards to protecting, financial information, or FINRA, then of course. But because this is a device sold to everyone for every purpose, it should be configurable to accommodate the unique needs of each individual purchaser. And unless they have a crystal ball and know what my needs are, how can they presume that that would be dangerous for me to enable? The way I enable it, it is not dangerous at all. Do you know how I know? Because I've been doing it for decades. So again, we don't enable remote access. But let me go back to Mike's unboxing here, because he's actually had one of these and configured one. He says, add a new user, call it guest, and set it to read only. All right, let's try that first and go from there. Let me get back over to my window capture mode, over to our UGREEN interface. And, okay, create a new user, control panel, user management, add a user, create. User, see, it's requiring a password here. This is my hang up. I don't see where I can not set a password. Hold on. Let me get back over to Mike again. Let me read a little slower what he just said, because I'm missing something. Let me get back over to the chat room. Add a new user, call it guest, and set it to read. So the problem is the guest requiring a password. Mike's unboxing looks like he's copied and pasted something here. Administrator and guest account should always be hidden or disabled on any internet-facing devices. Yes, I agree. I absolutely agree. This is not an internet-facing device. I have disabled all outside access. You can only access the NAS from the intranet, the local internet, or the local network. Thereby, guest access is perfectly safe. If you're in the building and connected to the network, why am I now requiring you permission? If you're connecting from outside of the building, different story. Now, you could go on and say, well, Carey, what if somebody, you can create these scenarios in your head. What if somebody came into the building, sat down at one of the employees' desks who got up to use a restroom or something, and then just started accessing your network? Well, we have cameras and we have, human beings to keep an eye on that. And employees know enough to lock their screen before they walk away with a client having, potential access. So with proper employee training, with common sense protocols, requiring an employee to always have to enter their name and password. And this is particularly difficult if, let's say they're at a real estate office and they're doing some work, or a lawyer's office, they're doing some work, and their system, for whatever reason, goes down. And they call me and I'm 30 miles away. I cannot get over there anytime soon, and they need to continue helping a client. So they go use a spare computer. They sit at a different desk, let's just say, and now they have to remember what the login is to access the files they were just in for dealing with the client. Word documents, PDF documents. It's a file share. That's all we use this for. We're not using it for hosting virtual machines. We're not using it for anything else other than a large hard drive that everybody in the office can access, no differently than if they all shared a USB drive. That wouldn't require a login either. You'd plug the USB drive, there's drive D. In our case, we map drive letter Z to the public folder, and you just use it the same way you would any other external drive. It is not internet facing, and to make the assumption that it is kind of It's not a requirement. It's not like you don't have a choice. I have shut that off, or rather never turned it on. This is strictly on the local area network. It does not exist outside of that. That's why I don't want users to have to enter logins. Got it? That's how I've always set it up. My businesses that I maintain, they're too small to have to worry about security about the person in the office next to you. If that person in the office next to you can't be trusted on the network, why are they employed here? So there is another way to look at this where it's a very viable, legitimate argument on why guest networks, or allowing guest access rather, is still secure and should not be kept away from me. As the administrator, I'm the one in control, not UGREEN. That's all I'm saying. Ask me how I really feel. Let's see, create the shared, Mike, this is from Mike's Unboxing. And again, I appreciate your help on this, Mike. He says, create the shared folder and it will be seen on the Samba shares and it won't need a password. Create the shared folder. Well, we already did that. And it is asking for a password. I just tried to access it and it says enter my username and password. So that's not working. Frank Jimmy says, where's Scott? It's time for a shot of tequila. Man, it was time for a shot of tequila back when the internet went down the first time. Does this unit have the ability to expand to add more hard drive? Yes, it does. Yeah, anytime you see USB ports on NASs, that's usually one of the reasons why they're there. Usually. I'm not aware of any exceptions. Whether you're using it to plug an external drive in through USB or another enclosure, which is usually quite often proprietary in how it communicates effectively, efficiently, and optimally with another unit, so that it's you're not having to buy a bigger unit. You can expand on. All right, let's see, what else do we have here? Go back over to UGREEN's area, console, or whatever we call it, interface. Everything was so good. It was so good, and now this. Let's just hope there is an easy way to do this, and I'm just not familiar with it, and we're going to learn something new, because I don't want to have to go into the terminal and do it that way. That's so barbaric, caveman. I just don't get it. Security? Not there. We've enabled SMB. See, SMB should have a guest account. That's not really something that UGREEN would have to implement, but rather they would have to remove it, is what they'd have to do. They'd do the opposite. At least that's my understanding and past experience with SMB. There's always a guest fallback. This tells us about our network. It's all good. And the device itself, that looks good. Gateway, that's all good. Already been here. Sometimes the guest account can be in the network section on some NASs. When I search for the word guest, it pulls up nothing. Nothing. In file service, I really can't create another volume, another share. I've already created one share, and I've used all the space on that one share. So if I go back to my shares, Where's our volume information? Storage, pool, volume. Sometimes the volume has settings, maybe? No, nothing about a guest account in settings. Data organizing, that's not useful. Advanced, we've already been in here. Okay, I mean, all that's fine. Everything else is, like I say, there's the external storage for the question asked earlier. 20 hours to finish the synchronization of the new drives, which is just basically verifying they're healthy. Apparently we can add some widgets down here. Hard disk status, volume status, hard disk performance monitoring. Ooh, turn that on. Me like that. Oh, and you can continue to add more. That's cool. I see so much of this I like. How could they just ruin it with one basic setting being obscured or removed? Which one is it? Take your bets. Was it obscured? Is it there, we can't find it? Or has it been removed entirely to protect us from ourselves? And how do I choose, I don't want you to protect me for me. I can protect myself, thank you very much. Where's that option? Terminal. So I've enabled SSH just in case I need to go in there and turn it on by hand. I know I can do that, but that is so out of date. Typically in SMB, you enable guest mode, or in the user management, you can create a guest account. But see here, the asterisk means this is required. You cannot turn the password off. Now, one workaround for this, by the way, if we want to go to the ways that we used to work around this in the 90s, is we would create an account called guest with a password called guest. And those were the days when you could make a password that was, you know, contained no letters or numbers or had a minimum length more than, say, 5 characters. See, this is saying must contain both upper and lower case. So if we just do, let's say, yeah, we'll keep that as guest, but we'll use a capital G. Will it let me do that? No. See, now they want, not only do you need upper and lower, but also a special character. Okay, sorry, let me rephrase. You need upper and lower with a minimum of 6 total characters. Doesn't matter if it's letters, numbers, or symbols. It must be no less than 6 characters and must contain at least 1 upper or lowercase character within those 6 character minimum. This is annoying. So the old way we used to do it is we just type guest. So I thought I'd be clever with a capital G, but even that's not good enough. We could type guests with a capital G, and I guess that would meet the requirement. Next. Read-write access. Done. General user, normal status. If we want to edit that, there's no way to remove that password. That's the problem. So like on Terra-Master, you'll have a guest account that's disabled. And how we turn guest account on is we disable this account. There's no enable it. Why did UGREEN not give us this option? I don't know. It seems awfully, what's the word I want? Presumptuous to take that away from your end user. So now if I want to access the share, let's do a full screen capture. Can I do that? Display capture. Yeah, all right, let's do it this way. We'll browse our network. We should see UGREEN. We do. See how it's asking for this? This is unacceptable. So I'm going to type in guest with a password of capital GUESTS and tell it to remember RoboForm. Okay, there's our public folder. And now I can access it. If I'm going to use a simple login and password, then why don't I just enable the guest account? Who are we kidding? This is just an unnecessary obstruction put in the face of the users that will need them to log in from time to time when it clears it out and needs to reaffirm, re-verify. And it'll happen randomly and it'll annoy them every single time. So we are so close, but not quite there. Let me go back to OBS and turn that screen display capture off. Okay, and then let me go back to camera 1 so I can then go over to the live chat over here. Mortant said, I don't remember doing all this on my Synology. I'm not aware of any other NAS manufacturer restricting you from a guest account. The way you do it with Synology is different than QNAP and it's different than Terra-Master, but they're all in there. I cannot find it in UGREEN, and I don't know if I'm not finding it because it's not there or that there's some location that we've not looked at to access it. But a Google search was not very helpful so far. So Raven is suggesting I change the password requirement, but I don't, regardless if it's upper or lowercase, regardless if it's 6 characters or 5, the idea that it's asking for a password and there is no guest fallback is what I'm trying to resolve, not the length of password. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if I can reduce it to say guest and guest back to the old school days, we're still going back in time to the bypass, which is silly, ridiculous, and we should have evolved past this. And I'm very disappointed that UGREEN has hidden this or has not enabled it. I can't even express how upset I am by it, because that is absolutely a showstopper for utilizing this in the environments in which I use NASs. I don't set them up any other way. Therefore, you know, for me to return this back to Amazon because it doesn't allow is a valid reason that I cannot deploy that or use that in real life. I'll be damned if I'm going to have to put in a login and a password for every storage. Imagine every time you want to use your C drive, you have to log into it. Now, look, if your Windows starts up and you're one of those kind of people that your Windows requires a username and password, none of my clients are set up that way. They boot right to the desktop. That's how we do it. If they're having access to something they shouldn't have access to, why are they employed? So that's not how we solve the problem. We change the users. We don't lock certain users out of the system. It's not a system problem. It's a user problem.
It looks like we have a complete internet.
Well, let's hope so. Don't.
Yeah.
You've said it out loud now, so you've jinxed us.
I might have jinxed it, yeah. But, yeah.
How do you think I create a guest account on? I'm asking the wrong person. She worked in corporate America. Everybody had to use passwords, and there was regulatory and still is regulatory requirements whether you like it or not. So maybe you're the wrong person to ask, because you.
Well, I would figure it out, but I need to get on the interface to do.
Well, I know we can open terminal, and we can go in and we can run the command.
Too, I'm sure that, so
I really don't want to do that.
I've been running around trying to fix the other problems.
Sure. All right. Well, as you were.
So, but I would be happy to maybe later after I can jump in.
Could you get me a cold one of these? Because this
Of
is
course. Yes.
this is warm. I'm a little warm too. Synology doesn't have a 2.5 or 10 gig. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they most certainly do. In fact, if you look at our review of the, was it a 924? That's 10 gig. You go back and watch our review. That was last year. Yeah, it was last year. Can I trade you?
You can.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Nobody can see you. They just see your arm. You
There's
can't
too
get.
many boxes in my room.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
There she is. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't know what they're tightening these lids with. What happened to Mike's unboxing? Did you give up on me? Oh, Connolly said, is UGREEN marketing the NAS for SMB consumers or enterprise? Yes to both. Raven suggests maybe we can set the password length minimum to 0. It's an interesting idea. I don't think it's going to let us do that, but I haven't tried. I got you now. We're communicate. Let's see. Under Control Panel, User Management, Guest Account, Edit. No, it's not in here. Is it under Security? No. I know, I remember seeing it. Yeah, well, we can turn that feature off. Minimum password length, 0. Please enter an integer from 6 to 127. Well, I guess that answers that question. At least I can turn the upper and lower case off, but we still got a minimum of 6. That's not gonna. Too bad I can't uncheck that box. I do not appreciate this at all. I should be allowed as the administrator to determine this on my own. I appreciate their advice and guidance, but I should be able to also offer my advice and guidance because they don't know how this is being used. And I think this is presumptuous to assume an administrator is that dumb. And if they are, look, they're going to have other problems in life, not just this. So whatever. I don't get it. All right, let me get back over to the chat again. Raven says, well, I guess that doesn't work. Yeah, no, I appreciate the suggestion. It was fair. It's a fair suggestion. Tick the box that says turn off usernames. Was there a box that said that? Turn off usernames? I recall seeing that. Do not use usernames. That's regarding the password. In other words, and I've already talked about this, and I guess you didn't listen, or maybe you just weren't here. You cannot use your name as your password. So if my login name is Carey, then by checking that box, you cannot use Carey as your password and your username. They cannot be the same. That's what this is referring. Look at the top line. So yeah, you misunderstood. All right, let's get back over to the chat one more time. What else we got? Let me go back over to the Reddit page. Someone else says, as far as they know, you cannot change the password requirements. And then somebody else replies on how they're following the National Institute for Standards and Technology, saying that they're no longer recommending using capitals and punctuation, and like 123 password exclamation point would be valid, which is a terrible password, even if it meets those ridiculous nonsense upper lowercase. That's just not a secure way to form a password, and this person's pointing that out. But we're just trying to get rid of the password, so that's a different discussion. I do not like the idea that we have to use a sudo command. I do not like that. Connect the NAS via console access. Use the user add command. Well, we've already got the user. We don't have to create it. Use the passwd command with the -d flag to remove the password for that user. For example, sudo space password space -d space my user. Come on. Come on. Let me go back to my Novell networking skills, and let's just do everything like that. This is a showstopper. This absolutely disqualifies this unit from use for everything I need it for as a professional business, and all of the clients that I help, I cannot use this NAS for them. It is unusable. And if I have to go in and manually do that, now it's usually a setting we only do once, all right? Normally we just set it and it's done. It's not that big of a deal to log into console and do it that way. I am putting my foot down and saying, unacceptable. This is not normal. I don't have to do this on all your competitors. Every single competitor. Now, I can get around this by not using their operating system. I can load TrueNAS on this, and there are videos on YouTube that'll walk you through that if you want to do it. But I don't want to use TrueNAS, which has no blame chain to a real working business. It needs to be an official supported operating system from the manufacturer of the NAS, or it does not qualify for what we need in the businesses I support. So that's not a solution for me. Okay, so I think we're stuck. And maybe this is why UGREEN wanted to absolutely see the video so that we don't disclose this kind of information. I don't know. What else might they be hiding? Is there more? Is this what their biggest fear was? Because it's easy for them to fix it. They have developers. They just write the code in. It's no different. They're not reinventing a wheel. It's no different from QNAP, Synology, AsusStor, Terra-Master. They all do this. This is the only company that I've seen that doesn't. Put it back. Give us an update. Put that back. Put all the warnings and disclaimers you want, but stop restricting my ability to use your device when it's my device now that I bought it. That's all I'm saying. It's really offensive. This is too dangerous for you. You can't have it. Please. Please, mister. Like I need their permission. Give me a break. I hope there's a setting in there we're not finding. We're going to reach out and we're going to ask them. We're going to see what they say, and we'll let you know. If you guys have any questions, this will about wrap it up for today's video. I don't think we can take this any further. And in fact, quite honestly, had we been able to finish this, then we just look at the App Store, you know, see what apps there are. Everything else was great. Great. What else did I have to complain about? Was there anything else? It was a fantastic setup right to then, and they shut us down. This close. Missed it by that much. It's fixable, but will they cooperate? We'll find out. Does Windows 11 force password on SMB? No. Guest fallback is a feature of Windows. It has been disabled with a Windows update, but it's I've already covered how to get around that. So many people have older NASs that don't have SMB authentication or guest fallback, or support rather guest fallback, that the Windows update broke their access to their network. So that video that I created showing you how to fix that has about 200,000 views, and people are like, I've been all over the internet and people are telling me, you know, do this, do that, and nobody had the answer but you. And it's well documented, by the way. I didn't invent the answer. I've got a link to the Microsoft article that explains that they enabled this new security feature and what it takes to disable it. Now, I show going into group policy because every Windows 11 Pro has that, and it only affected Windows 11 Pro. But then Microsoft issued another update that affected Windows 11 Home. It doesn't have the group policy editor. And so people are like, well, here's how do you add the group policy? You don't. Stop it. No. You just use PowerShell instead. And so in the video notes, I updated that video to say, well, since Microsoft issued a new update that now affects Windows 11 Home, instead of showing you how to enable the group policy editor, which I think is like trying to figure out how to use a hammer as a screwdriver. Like, what are you doing? Let me just show you. Don't use the hammer. Here's something else. And you just run PowerShell and you copy the commands with administrator rights. It's 2 commands and you're done, and it's set for good. So to answer your question, guest fallback is still there. We're just flipping a switch on or off. And Microsoft just changed the default. That's all. It was always defaulted one way, and after an update, they decided to default it the other way. But there's no new security. They just flip the default switch from on to off or off to on, and you just flip it back, and it stays that way. You can reboot and do other updates, and it stays that way. Okay? Let's see. Morton says, Happy Father's Day. Yeah, Happy Father's Day to everybody. When is Father's Day? Is it today? When is Father's Day 2025? Tomorrow. It's tomorrow. Cool. I'll check and see if I get any cards in the mail. Not expecting any. Yeah, I do not like this whole console thing. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. I might as well just use Linux. What do I need UGREEN for if I got to do that? I'm sad. So close to being great. Why'd they have to go and do that? Just look at your competitors. Which of your competitors does that? None of them. I wonder why. Trevor says, to grant guest permissions on a share, under shared folders, edit or create a share. We already did that. In the security settings, enable guest OK or allow guest. That is not an option in our security settings. I think you're reading information regarding a different NAS or a different version of the OS. I mean, you can use Google all day long, but you're not really helping us. You're providing us with outdated information that does not apply. And so look, I'm sorry, but it's really frustrating when somebody throws answers out that just copies and pastes what they see online versus actually having any hands-on experience. So instead of educated guesses, I'm getting guessing guesses. That's like throwing, like you don't know what's wrong with your car, so you just start replacing every single part until you figure it out. It's not, It's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for answers that somebody would have some experience with, because I can Google search all day. The difference is I've got it in front of me and you don't. And I can tell you right now, if you've been paying attention, what you're describing, we've already shown that doesn't exist. So I know your intent is there, but it's not help. It's the opposite of being helpful, because we've already covered that. So I think we will we'll reach out to UGREEN and we'll see what they have to say about it. I hope it's an easy answer, because if they just tell us that, you know, you can't do it, this is going back to Amazon and we're getting a refund, which we would not have been allowed to tell you, by the way, if we agreed to UGREEN's conditions of the review. Just so you know, what information is being omitted from you by other content creators making backroom deals? Where are the content creators getting the products they're reviewing? How are they paying for it? Ask yourselves these questions when you're watching TikTok videos, any social media. What's going on behind the scenes? It's pretty rare to find a content creator that's transparent. Now, to all credit, Mike's Unboxing already reviewed this, and he was very transparent right at the beginning of the video that he had to submit this video to UGREEN for approval. In exchange, UGREEN sent him the unit. And my guess is the UGREEN also paid him, but I don't know. It's none of my business. But I appreciate that transparency. Just being honest. There's nothing wrong with accepting the unit in exchange for having them approve it. If you're okay with that as a content creator, then you should have no problem being honest with your audience. And that's exactly what Mike's Unboxing did. And it's a perfect example of how it should be done, in my opinion. However, it's also my opinion not to do that at all. But you got to pay the bills, or you go without the product if you have to finance it yourself, and then you don't get the review. So as a content creator, we each have that decision to make of how much we're willing to, how much of our independence we're willing to trade in order to get the content, versus, you know, what we're doing here is we have a community that through memberships, paid memberships, and through contributions of PayPal, Amazon gift cards, we can go and buy the products, whatever we want to buy, and review it however we want. And we have no dog in the race, and we don't require any sort of corporate overlord to give us permission. And that's very important to me. I realize I haven't seen any other I've not seen another YouTube content creator that is that shares that perspective. Doesn't mean they don't exist. I've never seen one. And I'm very independent. I've been born that way. If you guys value that and you want to see it continue, please contribute. Please become a member so we can do more stuff like this. For better or for worse, I didn't get this, as I said in the beginning, I didn't get this to beat up on UGREEN. This is not like I'll teach you a lesson. This is just like, I want to review this the same way I review anything else that gets sent to us for free, without conditions. And UGREEN would not agree to that. So we bought one instead. And I was very impressed with it right up till now. And I mean, this is a very serious problem for me. This absolutely removes it from my options that I can offer clients, or even myself, because I will not tolerate that. I don't tolerate it from competitors. And despite all the good, what good is it if I can't use it? So I am sad. This is not the outcome I wanted. If I thought this would be the outcome, I wouldn't have bothered. For full disclosure. All right. Well, any final questions, comments, suggestions? Put them in the chat now, and then I'll do my best to provide answers. Thanks to Mara, of course, our channel administrator, who set up today's thumbnail and description, because it was all done very last minute, and she got it done. And of course, she maintains our chat room and she answers your emails. If you want to email us, the email address is not hidden or obscured in any way, and you should not be using any other email to contact me. If you have an email from the past, please stop using it. Unless otherwise directed, use this email address by default, because otherwise I may never get your email. showcasecreate@gmail.com is how you reach us in 2025. If you reached us any other way in 2024 or before, please stop doing that. Don't reach me through Facebook for business or channel-related items. Don't reach me on other email addresses. If you want a prompt answer, use that email address. I don't know how much clearer I can be. And if you want an answer at all, because if you're using something else, it may not be valid anymore, or it may not be checking it. All right? I want to hear from you, but if you can't follow basic steps, don't expect a response. Again, if you're directed when responding, when we send you a response to send your message somewhere else, that's an exception. And you'll be directed at that point. I can't imagine why, but there you go. All right. For anybody that's been communicating in 2025 with me through email, continue to do so. For some reason, it doesn't require correction. What I'm trying to tell you is if you've been emailing me, like we've had some business we've been doing, then you're using the business email address, and that's okay. But otherwise, other inquiries, especially if you haven't reached out in 2025, do use this email from this point forward. And then if it's a business inquiry, we may redirect you to a different email. This is just the general public email, and we filter it from there. That's part of Mara's job, and it makes sure it gets done because it was too much for me before. I couldn't stay on top of it. Nonsense from business, from just people wanting to say hello who have nothing else to do. That's all well and good. I don't mind saying hello, but you're taking me away from work. So I do ask that, if it's channel related, business related, or something more personal and informal, not for public consumption, use that email address, please. Or don't expect a response. Okay. What else can I tell you? Our friends at SCD Keys have their discounted on the Windows and Office license keys. Using coupon code Carey gets you an additional 30% off, but I don't make a commission on that. I bring it out there so you guys can save money and not roll the dice hoping you'll get a legal key, or the company that you bought it from will support you, or just not vanish with your money. So if that's important to you, we provide it to you for that reason. Tomorrow, I've got to finish up the build I started with the, or restarted with the Cougar case, and we have to put that Trikes 360 cooler on. Shouldn't take too long. 90 minutes and 2 hours should be about right. Once we get the cooler on, we can fire it up and get our Windows updates. The operating system's already been installed and recently was updated, so that going any forward, once the machine's powered back up, if everything's done right, we can run Cinebench and check our temps and make sure everything's cool, literally and figuratively. And then that can be cable managed and buttoned back up off camera and set aside for whatever we use it for. Monday is our members only video. And that's videos that are only available to members as a gift to them to show my appreciation for their support. They get unique content. We showed a diagnostic that is not made public, and we've done that before, so they do have exclusive content that the public will never see. Just so you know, not always, but once in a while we do repairs and diagnostics, and sometimes I edit that section out and publish it later. Sometimes I don't. So if you're not a member and you're not seeing those videos, you never will. So just so you know, just a benefit of membership to encourage people to support us. We have a laptop to review that's a budget entry-level laptop made in the USA, 90-day returns, great customer service, supposedly, and priced under $300. I understand that you can get the price down low if you remove the support and the warranty, hence, Alibaba. But how do you get the price that low and give people support and an extended return policy and a quality, well-built product that's easy to upgrade? Doesn't that all sound too good to be true? The laptop manufacturer is called Nemo, N-I-M-O, just like the clownfish from the cartoon animated movie. But that's spelled N-E-M-O. This is N-I-M-O. And if you want to search YouTube for other products that they've manufactured and had reviewed, they've been around. I've never heard of them. And the laptop we're reviewing so far, I have not seen anybody else reviewing this particular model. All the reviews I've looked at to verify, is this company real? Yes. I'd also like to bring a representative of the company on to talk to us about why they're so different and how they're able to do what nobody else seems to be able to do, which is provide quality at a low price with good support. Pick two, you know what I mean? We'll see if they accept our invitation or not, but they're US based. So I don't think they're manufacturing the parts here, but they are assembling it here. And they have a local repair center. So in other words, domestic. So if you have to send something in for warranty, you ship it within the US, the way it should be. There's nothing more discouraging than being told you have to send your unit overseas to get it repaired, because the cost and time doesn't make that practical for most people. I'm really excited to check them out because it all seems too good to be true. N-I-M-O. Do your own research if you want to get a heads up on what we're going to be looking at next week. And then we've got a couple other things lined up, which I don't want to talk about just yet because they're not set in stone. But if you haven't subscribed, please do hit the subscribe button, turn those notifications on so you can be made aware of when we go live outside of our regular Monday, Friday schedule. That'll wrap it up for me for today. Let me thank Buster one more time, and of course Charlie Purdy for their generous support. Thank you to all the members for supporting us here. And thank you to all the viewers, the kind, supportive viewers who join us in the chat and just are respectful and kind. I mean, you can't pay for that. You know, it's a choice people make. And we appreciate that those joining us that are not members but are welcome to join us in our chat room are at a very minimal level courteous. It's a weird thing to have to require. Why is that not the default human behavior without justification? I don't know, but welcome to the internet. And now we have to tell people things that, well, used to be considered minimal social acceptance. And for some reason, people just come into attack. And we don't know why. We don't know who they are. And we don't know what motivates them. So we ban them. And what that does is it makes those of you who are kind more valuable. If you weren't valuable before, those people's behavior make you even more valuable. And if you'd like to be surrounded with more kind people, please join us in our community. It doesn't cost anything other than your kindness. That's all. And if you can't afford kindness, you're not welcome here. That's going to wrap it up for me for today. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you all again, hopefully with an update before too long with what's going on with whether or not I decide to keep this or send it back, depending on UGREEN's response. Until next time, bye for now.